2 decades ago, sadistic cosmic deities birthed a twisted nightmare called the Day of Confinement just to cure their boredom. This hellish game suddenly crashed into Earth, plunging humanity into a chaotic era of apocalyptic ruin and divine evolution. Selected humans are dragged into this deathmatch, forced to navigate a series of treacherous reality-bending dungeons. Each level boasts its own sadistic rules, but one law remains absolute: conquer the dungeon or perish. Victory grants game-breaking cards that rewrite destiny, while failure demands a blood tax paid with your very soul. Losers rot here for eternity. Every player dreams of slaying the boss and claiming S-rank glory as the ultimate victor. Yet in this brutal gauntlet, only a single warrior emerged alive. He once clung to the desperate hope that, by conquering every floor and crushing every monstrous boss, he could eventually ascend to absolute unrivaled power. He thought he'd gain everything, but the soul-crushing truth finally dawned on him: the game's true finale was godhood itself. Rejecting that hollow divinity, he refused to join the ranks of those malevolent cosmic tyrants. A colossal crimson entity manifested a grotesque nightmare of writhing flesh and pulsating unholy light. Countless sinister eyes pierced the void. The beast hissed Luoshi's name, hailing him as Earth's sole conqueror. As the game's peak predator, he was offered immortality, a chance to transcend time and live forever among the gods. Joining their ranks meant wielding supreme cosmic authority, allowing him to rule over every living thing in existence. It whispered that only he, the last man standing, possessed the god-tier potential required to transcend humanity. The beast questioned if he'd really throw away divinity. Without a flicker of doubt, he confirmed his refusal. He survived through cold, calculated logic, becoming the lone survivor. Yet the cost of victory was utterly devastating. His mother, his brothers in arms, and his soulmate. This cursed game swallowed every person he ever cherished. Baffled, the Crimson Entity demanded to know his true desire. He simply asked for a quiet, mundane life. A world of boring routines where his loved ones were breathing safe and far from this divine slaughterhouse. He envisioned his mother's voice at dinner, his friends' laughter, and his girl planning their next simple date. Pain surged as those stolen memories flared, all annihilated by these bored deities. Then the god forced him to witness his home planet crumbling into stardust. But in that moment of total despair, the tides finally turned. Unfazed by their petty threats, he revealed a hidden card and coldly promised the beast, "I'm coming back." This S-rank card 005 possessed a reality-bending force that even these gods couldn't fathom or restrain. He mocked them for accidentally creating something so lethal. Internally, a wave of relief washed over his soul. Holding this trump card was his only shot at erasing his regrets and resurrecting those he'd failed to protect. Activating the S-rank time reversal, he shattered the present. Reality fractured as the universe began to rewind. While the world's memory vanished, his remained intact, a total system reboot to rewrite his tragic destiny. Stunned by his hidden ace, the deity found the twist hilarious. Its twisted fascination with him only grew. The entity relished their future encounter as chronal energy erupted, dragging the world back through the ages. "Wash your necks," he snarled. "Because next time, I'm not just playing the game, I'm ending all of you." He wouldn't let them steal his world twice. The hands of time spun backward at an impossible speed. His eyes snapped open. Gasping for air, the terrifying realization hit him. The reversal worked. He was truly back. Clad in a patient's gown, he instantly recognized the sterile walls of Qingshan City's psychiatric ward. His mother entered, her voice soft with worry, as she asked if the shadows were scaring him again. Seeing her alive paralyzed him. In his hellish past life, the moment the game began, her fate was sealed. He never heard her speak again after the confinement started. Her consciousness was devoured by the system's cruel mechanics. She'd become a hollow shell. Overwhelmed by her warm voice, he pulled her into a desperate, tearful embrace. He sobbed about how much he missed her, leaving her utterly bewildered and flustered by his sudden outburst. She secretly feared his mental state was spiraling. This is Luo Shi, a man trapped within his own mind. A resident of the psych ward, he's lived with severe dissociative identity disorder since he was a young child. Doctors call it schizophrenia. But what if those hallucinations were actually real voices screaming inside his head? To him, they weren't delusions, they were real. Yet society dismissed him, leaving him rotting in a hospital bed. No job, no normal life, and no chance at love. But none of that pathetic past matters anymore. A quiet life with everyone still alive, that was the dream he held close. But his countdown had already started. He glanced at his phone. 17:26. He knew exactly when the day of confinement would descend. It arrives on February 23rd at 6 p.m. sharp. He had only 34 minutes left, and every second was gold. The system rips your consciousness into its world. Fail the mission, and you are trapped for eternity. If you die inside, your physical body becomes a brain-dead shell. The first wave always sends players straight into an E-rank starter dungeon. These beginner zones are usually simple except for a few lethal traps. Survival is guaranteed if you master the hidden mechanics. He calculated he could finish his notes in 10 minutes. He had to simplify the rules so his mother could understand. Her survival depended on her memorizing every detail. He prepared 2 copies knowing Qingzai would be arriving at his door any moment. This was the only path to save them. His mother told him not to overwork himself, worried for his health. She reminded him the doctor ordered rest before heading downstairs to take out the trash. She had been his protector since he was a child. When his father wanted to abandon him, she refused. She drained their savings for his treatment, but his father still walked out on them both. He left them with nothing. Since then, she raised him alone, working until she was bone-tired. Even then, she always made time to teach him. Back then, he was blind to her sacrifices. Only after losing everything did he realize she was his entire world from the very start. The door creaked open. It was his friend Qing carrying a bag of Shi's favorite tangerines. Shi greeted him like they hadn't met in years. Qing was baffled since he visited just 3 days ago. This buzzcut guy was Shi's ride or die. They grew up in the same neighborhood since they were toddlers. People used to treat Shi like a curse, and some even bullied him to prove their twisted courage. He never understood the hate. That was when Qing stepped in, throwing punches to protect him. Qing declared they were brothers from that day on, but in Shi's past life, that bond ended in blood. Qing died a brutal death, sacrificing his own life just so Shi could clear the game. His final wish was for Shi to keep living and win. In this life, Shi swore that tragedy would never repeat. Qing asked about the papers, assuming it was a novel. Shi corrected him, it was a survival strategy. Qing grew worried, asking if the doctor really allowed him to obsess over games like this. He feared it would worsen Shi's condition, but Shi looked him in the eyes and said this game was mandatory. Qing's eyes lit up, assuming it was some legendary masterpiece that just had to be played. Shi nodded and handed over the guide, telling him to study every word with absolute focus. He then instructed Qing to find his mother and ensure she read the other copy immediately. Qing was stunned that even Mom was getting involved. Shi told him to skip the questions and just read. He warned him to memorize everything. In the coming chaos, this knowledge would be his only shield. Qing agreed to do it, though. He felt like Shi had suddenly become a completely different person. To protect his loved ones and slaughter the evil gods, Shi prepared to step into the fire. His mission was clear: become the world's strongest player again. That meant dominating every dungeon. He needed to hunt down all 15 S-rank cards hidden across the world. In the day of confinement, players scavenge cards ranging from E to S rank by clearing zones or slaying monsters. There are weapons, attributes, and special items. Each one grants the user godlike abilities. But the 15 S-rank cards are unique. They possess powers that even the gods cannot suppress. Like the time reversal card he'd already used, these were his ultimate keys to victory. Gathering them all was his only hope to slay the divine. It was 17, 58, 59. The era of peace was over. Suddenly, a glowing system notification manifested before his eyes. He was selected for the first wave of players. The dungeon began loading as his soul was yanked away. Memories of the apocalypse flooded his mind. This time, Shi made a silent, ironclad vow. He would protect his family, crush every dungeon, and reclaim his throne at the top of the world. Luo Shi vowed to butcher the wicked deities who played with his world like a toy. He awakened within the desolate realm of Day of Confinement. A cold system prompt greeted him, initiating the lethal simulation. Player Luo Shi was identified as an E-rank bottom feeder. The Slaughter Company scenario materialized as his soul synchronized. Suddenly, the system tried to purge his consciousness and wipe his memories clean. It prepped to upload fake memories, but a critical error sparked. The memory wipe failed, leaving his true identity completely intact. The monstrous boss spawned, while the system granted him total freedom to navigate this digital hellscape. Enjoy the game, the system droned. It was exactly as he remembered, a nightmare repeating itself, word for word. This dungeon felt terrifyingly real, mirroring the world he knew. In these low-level trial zones, victims are brainwashed to believe this horror is reality, yet for some inexplicable reason, his mind remained untouched. With his memories sharp, Luo Shi possessed a godlike advantage. He knew every bloody twist awaiting him in this office hell. He stood within the E-rank threshold of Slaughter Company, a death trap disguised as a mundane corporate office. Cubicles stretched endlessly as salarymen typed away, oblivious to the fact they were cattle in a slaughterhouse. This peaceful facade was fleeting. Despite its E-rank label, clearing this dungeon required more than just mindless luck. 3 lethal bosses guarded the exit. Each one boasted unique powers that escalated in difficulty with every kill. For any newbie, this was a suicide mission. He summoned his status window, revealing the name Luo Shi in glowing text. Level 0. Human. Every vital stat, skill, and item slot remained frustratingly grayed out and locked tight. Even the global rankings were blocked. However, one anomaly stood out, a mysterious, unidentified blessing pulsing in his stat sheet. The reality was grim. He was a mere novice again. In his current state, facing the dungeon's wrath was suicide. Slaying 3 bosses seemed like a pipe dream. He needed to awaken his stats, and decipher that strange divine blessing. This power-up likely tied back to the memories he'd carried through time from his previous tragic life. No time to waste. His primary objective was simple grind, enough power to tear through the first floor's guardian. Searching for a shortcut to power, a memory sparked. Hidden within these walls lay a secret side quest only he knew. Snagging those hidden attribute cards would flip the script, making this impossible clearing mission a walk in the park. 0 hour was 11 p.m. With only 10 minutes remaining, he had just enough time to rig the game in his favor. A lingering mystery haunted him, the phantom voice from his rebirth. That same eerie echo had plagued his mind since childhood. It felt like a hallucination until now. Suddenly, the message was crystal clear: Earth's salvation and the gods' destruction. To topple the divine tyrants, he had to unite with unknown allies. It was their only shot at surviving the apocalypse. The voice hinted that keeping their memories through the next reset would allow them to finally assassinate the gods together. As a regressor, the voice believed Luo Shi was the key to influencing the others and changing destiny. Though his allies were currently oblivious, the question remained: who were they? He racked his brain for the answer. Could gathering 15 legendary S-rank cards grant him their combined might? He shoved the thought aside and headed to the restroom. Strategic theories could wait. He reached his destination. The first phase of his master plan was officially underway. He had to activate the secret quest and claim the loot. A system ping confirmed he'd reached the special coordinates. The hidden mission, the secret, flashed across his vision. He had successfully triggered the dungeon's greatest mystery. The objective was buried inside a men's restroom stall. With the prompt active, it was time to collect his prize. Suddenly, a beastly figure emerged, glowing crimson eyes and jagged horns fixed onto a bizarrely round face. It lacked the aura of a killer, looking more irritated than lethal. The stall door groaned as it swung open. The system tagged the monster, the urban legend known as Ghost Coward. This tiny, snarling beast stood its ground. It guarded a chest, but Luo Shi wasn't impressed. He glared coldly, threatening to snap its neck if it didn't vanish. The monster recoiled in sheer terror and bolted. Without swinging a fist, he had conquered the legendary Ghost Coward. The loot was now his. Despite being a guardian, the creature was a complete pushover for anyone with guts. Fear was its only weakness. This chest was a gamble. It held either a massive reward or a lethal trap. It sat locked, taunting him for a key he didn't have. Luo Shi didn't care. He simply crushed it underfoot. Wood splintered as the chest cracked open. Most players fail here, paralyzed by the search for a non-existent key. Abandoning logic for raw aggression made this secret quest a joke. Even a level 0 rookie could dominate it. Success inside lay his salvation: 3 items, including an E-rank stamina card and a potent E-rank agility card. Finally, the E-rank strength card. The basic attribute trio was complete. With these, his player stats could finally awaken. He slammed all 3. Raw power, speed, and endurance surged. Agility immediately hit level 1. The level 5 cap loomed ahead for every single core attribute. The power-up was subtle, yet undeniably lethal. For his current self, it was enough to slaughter those 3 bosses. The system panel flickered. His stats were live. Using cards officially marked his player ascension. Even at base level, he was already beyond any normal human. He tested a punch. The wall buckled instantly into a deep dent. With these stats and veteran combat skills, this dungeon was light work. But against the gods, this wasn't even close to enough heat. He needed every edge, including that haunting, mysterious voice in his head. Investigation time. He called out, demanding answers from the unidentified blessing. A voice echoed back, cryptic and cold. Then a massive shadow loomed. Instincts flared. He scanned the perimeter and finally locked eyes on them. Ghostly silhouettes surrounded him. They'd been watching his every move. "Who are you?" he demanded. They offered nothing but cryptic silence. "Prove your worth first," they hissed. "Help wouldn't come for free. Go fight." Time was bleeding out. He didn't blink for a second. If their power meant a shot at the gods, he'd pay the price. The system chimed. The countdown hit 0. The boss was spawning. Conquest mode. Engaged. Welcome to the brutal day of confinement. An E-rank nightmare descended. Every player braced for the slaughter. Here's the catch. If you leave when the clock stops, you die. 48 seconds remained. The timer was a ticking death sentence. Less than a minute left. With his agility boost, he could make it. He went full throttle. Reach that gate or it's game over forever. 18 seconds left. Any delay now would result in instant execution. Thugs began whining. The Mohawk idiot refused to accept the reality. A bald, beefy thug started making threats. He just sprinted past them. There are always fools who don't listen. The timer finally hit 0. He dove inside safely. Outside, the stragglers' heads literally went pop. Total silence fell. The horrifying realization hit: this game is deadly real. Break the rules and you're erased. The gate slammed shut behind them. The vibe shifted instantly. Something far worse was crawling out. Warning, the area boss was spawning. Find a weapon or die, the system screamed. Face the E-rank cleaner squad. The players were losing their minds. Screams of mercy filled the air. Then dark silhouettes began laughing. The first boss arrived. Total annihilation of all bosses was the mission. Leading the pack was the cleaning captain, a level 2 E-rank beast. It boasted level 4 strength. It was built for absolute destruction. Armed with a steel broom and blade-sharp dustpan, a cleaning specialist. Behind it, the grunt cleaners marched, brandishing their own steel brooms. A massive guy stepped up, flexing his bare knuckles for the fight. "Don't go," he warned. The man just barked at him to shut up. "Look at this girl who barely crawled inside." He figured she was just lucky and had zero business barking orders. This meathead was a self-proclaimed pro gamer. He clocked that the leaderboard ranked global kill points, not just body counts. He was convinced that striking first would catapult him to the top tier. High risk, high reward, right? He was already dreaming of a billion-dollar payout. Once he escaped, the yachts, the girls, the mansions, it was all within reach. He lunged forward, treating the beast like a mere stepping stone. Sudden death. The captain swung once and the guy's head went flying across the tiles. Pure silence hit the room before absolute carnage erupted. The cleaning squad officially started their shift. Terror-fueled screams filled the air as everyone scrambled for an exit that didn't exist. Game over for most. But our guy steps up, delivering a savage blow to a general cleaner, claiming his spot as its new challenger. Since it's only level 5, the creature gets blasted into the brick wall. He roars at the survivors to wake up, challenging them to slay the boss, to hunt gods and snag those S-rank cards. Crushing these fodder bosses was non-negotiable. The crowd gaped. Someone was actually throwing hands, and he was actually winning. After watching the meathead get deleted, this guy was a fortress. But the beast wasn't finished, it was still twitching. Zero hesitation. He pounds it into the pavement until the body starts glitching away. Confirmed kill. No reward notification means the job's not done. Always double tap for safety. Loot drop. He scores a steel broom. An E-rank gear adding +1 strength. The logs show a level 1 worker kill, and drops a strength card. Another E-rank buff to boost his power. Shockwaves through the crowd. He made that look easy. Everyone's wondering, who is this guy? How could he outclass that buff guy? These mobs drop up to 3 cards: strength, agility, or stamina. Right now, stats are life, so every card is pure gold. Card activated, level 2, strength unlocked. Another E-rank cleaner crawls up, itching for a fight. In this twisted world, even a single level gap creates a massive power divide. With level 2 base plus the broom's buff, he's a beast. The monster lunges, but it's hopeless. One swing of the broom, instant kill. Another strength card drops into his inventory. Boom, strength hits, level 3. But then his instincts scream danger. Another mob charges. He reacts in a flash, taking its head. That move was way too slow. Kill confirmed. Reward an E-rank agility card. Perfect for boosting his speed. In this hell, speed is survival. It was exactly what he needed before the captain locked eyes. The boss and his goon fixate on him, spitting insults. Time for the aggro system to kick in. The higher the body count, the bigger the target on your back. Peak performance equals peak danger. The captain's skill cleaning mastery buffs his strength by 2 whole levels. A head-on clash is suicide. He needs to play it smart and pick them off individually. The standoff breaks as he bolts, screaming at the crowd to help if they want to live. He tells them to pelt the mobs with junk to create a much-needed opening. He's tanking all the heat, so they're safe for now. Just provide cover fire. This is a trial. He's scouting for any talent worth bringing into future dungeons. More knowledge means more survivors, but the crowd is paralyzed. If they move, they might catch the captain's eye, and that's a death sentence. They just stand there, hoping he can solo the whole room. He realizes fear has turned them into statues. Nobody's coming to help. Waiting for these cowards is a waste of time. He'll have to carve his own path. Suddenly, the captain lunges, closing the distance in a flash. Crack. A keyboard shattered against the monster's face. MC blinked. Some nerd actually had the balls to fight. The mob turned on the guy, but he snapped back. "I'm fighting so we don't all die." Survival meant teamwork. Finally, someone else understood the grim reality of this game. A coward grabbed him, hissing that regular people couldn't possibly face these nightmares. The cleaning captain growled. Now that it had their attention, it was time to incinerate the trash. Chaos erupted. The nerd screamed, "I've got the aggro, take your shot now." MC blurred. 2 mobs fell in a single, lightning-fast arc. His stats were simply overwhelming. The minions didn't stand a chance, pure one-shots. Only the big boss remained amidst the corpses. Loot drop, E-rank agility, and strength cards. Meanwhile, the captain raised its massive weapon. Trash disposal, it droned, targeting the nerd. The guy could only scream in terror. Suddenly, G flickered behind the beast. "The real trash," he whispered, "is right here." Shink. The captain's head rolled. The system chimed. Stage boss defeated. Contribution rankings flared. G sat at rank 1 with 700 points. The hype was real. The prize S-rank card 0001. A legendary item he'd never touched in his past life. S rank cards hold world-shaking power. G was dying to see what 01 was truly capable of. Most players were still skillless, but G knew holding the top spot would be a brutal war. This wasn't just local. The rankings included every soul across the globe thrown into this hell. Confinement Day hit everyone at once. Even as a veteran survivor, G felt the tension. Top-tier players with insane, irreplicable abilities were already emerging worldwide. Rebirth didn't make him invincible. He couldn't afford to underestimate anyone in this new reality. Ranking equaled loot. Efficiency was the only way to stay ahead of the pack. Secure first. Maximize points. To slay the evil gods, he needed power that defied logic. He needed that S-rank card to surpass his past self. Phase 1 cleared. The real game starts now. The Slaughter Captain was history. Rewards 1 E-rank stamina card and a few special drops. 2 agility cards and 2 specials, cleaning and iron embryo. The embryo was a massive win. Pure luck. This card forges an E-rank weapon that resonates perfectly with the user's aura. Activation creates a custom-tailored blade forged directly from the user's very essence. There was even a chance for a mutation. In this world, the sword reigned as king, the emperor of weapons. If the RNG gods were kind, this would change everything. G eyed the nerd. He looked like a total pushover, yet he'd stepped up during the clutch. Action over fear. That instinct to read the battlefield, that's a true player's DNA. With the right training, this kid could be an asset. G thanked him for the distraction. The nerd shrugged. You're the only one who can win. If you died, we're all toast. G smirked at the guy's logic, handing him 3 cards: stamina, agility, and cleaning. Attributes to awaken his potential and the cleaning card to serve as a mental detox. The nerd hesitated, but G insisted. That distraction was a gamble that paid off. Without his help, things could have gone south. These rewards were earned in blood. G gave him a quick tutorial. Round 2 was coming, it was time to gear up. MC popped a card. Ping strength and agility surged to level 4 instantly. Stamina trailed at level 1, but the nerd finally grasped the system's rhythm. The rush was real. Suddenly, his body felt weightless, his senses sharpening to a razor's edge. Status check, Shu, Wen. Level, 0. 70100 EXP. The grind had officially begun. Stats were basic. Skills locked. Equipment, none. He was a complete blank slate. Wen blinked EXP without a kill, MC explained, the logic of shared contribution. Since he'd tagged the boss, Wen cashed in on that sweet shared EXP reward. Beyond that, each level grants a minor stat boost, though it lacks the punch of attribute cards. When Wen questioned his current rank, he revealed he had hit level 4, leaving Wen visibly hyped. That rank was already considered peak. His current standing, level 4 with 20 out of 500 experience. Strength and agility sat at level 4, while stamina lagged at level 1. Equipment and abilities remained sealed. No loot drops yet. Even in his past life, he never encountered a random card like this one. He wondered what weapon his aura would manifest. Suddenly, the orb in his palm began to churn. It crystallized into the blue vein sword, a growth-type blade. Currently E-rank, but its final peak remains unknown. Its signature move, Sky Rending Slash, charges the blade with lethal blood energy upon every strike. Once the nodes glow crimson, it triggers a devastating sword wave. Plus, it grants random skills every 10 levels. The soul brand binds it permanently to its master. No stealing, no trading, and 0 chance of dropping. Even beyond death, the contract holds. A growth-type pull, that is a massive win in this hellscape. Possessing an innate skill makes it insanely rare, even if the current rank is only level E. Fully unleashed, it rivals C-rank firepower. Wen stood frozen, shocked that he called such power not bad. The gap between them was staggering. In his past life, he wielded an S-rank legend. The Flame Dragon Shadow was peerless, but this blade's evolution potential means its ceiling is truly limitless. The system chimed stage 1 cleared. Immediately, the next nightmare was unveiled, the staff cafeteria. All survivors were ordered to the 2nd floor. Their objective: enter the cafeteria immediately. Fail to arrive before the clock hits 0, and you die. The 5-minute countdown began. The script remained unchanged, but unlike his previous helpless self, he was now a different beast. He offered Wen a spot beside him. Wen faltered, barely believing he was being invited along. He needed sharp minds, not just muscle. Thinkers would accelerate stage clears and anchor his future empire. Wen had passed the vibe check. Without a second thought, he pledged his absolute loyalty. He gave a curt nod. Behind them, the desperate crowd erupted, begging for a chance to follow. Rich heirs offered fortunes. Others promised their very souls just to stay under his protection. Then a group of thugs blocked his path, demanding he save everyone since he had the power. They branded him selfish, claiming he viewed their lives as trash. His gaze turned lethally cold. He warned them, "Keep blocking me, and I'll treat you like the monsters I kill." They vanished instantly. The crowd stood paralyzed. The sheer killing intent in his eyes was enough to crush their spirits. Wen whispered, asking if they were truly staying behind. He replied that killing the boss was help enough. They were cowards. Dead weight would only drag him down. He wasn't some saintly savior. He wasn't a hero. He was selfish. His only goal, keeping his own people alive. Wen understood the assignment. He swore to be an asset, not a burden. The briefing began. The next boss, the chef. Expect high levels of mental corruption and psychological warfare. If your mind cracks, use the cleaning card instantly. Wen figured it was an anti-debuff trump card. They reached the cafeteria and took their seats. The second phase of the game was live. A delicious aroma wafted through the air. For a second, Wen thought the danger had subsided. Then a shadow draped in red mist materialized. It coldly announced 1 minute remains. A chill gripped Wen's heart. Those are executioners, the monsters that hunt the slow and the weak. Wen flashed back to the office, where the heads of latecomers had popped like overripe fruit. They claimed their seats first. To Wen, the empty hall felt eerie and wrong. The distance was short. There was zero reason for anyone to be lagging behind. He noted that those with resolve always arrive early. The quick-witted don't miss their mark. But most people hesitate, wasting precious life or death seconds on useless trivial anxieties. They only act when death is knocking. Pure fear. Only 52 seconds remained on the clock. Right on cue, survivors began scrambling in faces, twisted with the regret of their wasted time. Paralyzed by indecision, a frantic scream shattered the silence, ordering them to move now or perish. For many, the realization came too late. As the clock struck 0, a wave of relief washed over the lucky few inside. They lunged for seats as the timer expired. The final survivor collapsed through the doors, lungs burning and muscles failing. He thought the nightmare was over, but in a flash of cold steel, the executioner silenced him forever. Time's up. He failed. Terror gripped the survivors as they realized that monster wasn't even the stage boss. A brutal truth settled in. If they hadn't hesitated, that tragedy would never have unfolded. Then the real terror appeared, the chef. A shadowy silhouette draped in crimson mist, hauling a massive steaming cauldron. The feast began. As each portion was served, players recoiled at the sight of a revolting neon green sludge. Severed fingers and eyeballs floated in the stew. Wen's stomach churned. These were the remains of the monsters from earlier. A system notification blared. Merely glancing at the meal triggered a devastating mental corruption debuff. Strength and agility plummeted 20%, while spirit crashed by 30%. Wen stared in horror. The penalty was brutal. 3 stats gutted instantly. The stakes just skyrocketed. Then the system issued a chilling command. Every player must clear their plate. Wasting food meant facing the chef's wrath. Leaving the meal untouched would drain spirit by 10% every minute. Reach 0 and your mind would shatter entirely. Game over. 7 minutes. That was it. Wen was cornered, waste it and die or refuse it and perish anyway. A total deadlock. How could anyone swallow that filth? Suddenly, the first stage looked like a cakewalk. Despair began to choke him, but the lead remained unfazed. He whispered that, despite the danger, a secret win condition existed, and he already held the key. Wen's hope sparked at those words. Wen offered his absolute loyalty. The response was simple: just stay put and wait for my signal. He warned Wen to keep his cleaning card ready to purge the debuff and stay conscious. The system's warning flashed again. Mental pollution was eating away at his sanity every passing second. His spirit sat at 70%. 6 minutes and 59 seconds remained before total mental collapse. Wen felt his strength withering just by looking at the gore. Nearby, a woman fought back the urge to vomit. Panic set in. They had 7 minutes to eat or lose their souls to the darkness. The man opposite her trembled. Was eating this horror really the only way? She knew the grim reality. With their attributes crippled by corruption, a direct confrontation with the 4 chef monsters was suicide. The standard strategy was simple. Eat lower the chef's guard, then strike together. But the rewards were pathetic. Suddenly, a hidden blessing surged through him. He was now completely immune to all mental pollution. His spirit surged back to 100% instantly. A mysterious voice echoed, "Consider this a small favor. If you want my true power, prove you're worth the investment." He stood stunned. Mental attacks were now useless against him. This changed the entire game. Now he could trigger the high-difficulty hidden rules from his past life. Success meant legendary rewards. He wouldn't just survive, he'd dominate the leaderboards. Suddenly, one player reached his breaking point. "I'd rather die than eat this," he screamed, hurling his plate. Wen wondered if he'd already snapped. "Confirmed," he muttered. A person's willpower is far more fragile than any stat sheet suggests. Without high mental resistance, the pollution wins. If no one clears this, they're all doomed. The man stomped his meal into the floor, defiant. Suddenly, a heavy shadow loomed over him. A chef smashed a spiked bat into his skull. "Refuse to eat. Then you're just ingredients." Even as he was broken, the man resisted. The chef gripped his head, dragging him toward the kitchen's darkness. The room fell silent. They finally understood the price of rebellion. Nobody can stomach that, a woman sobbed. Only 6 minutes were left on the clock. Would they all share that fate? The system announced that since no one had eaten, a 10% penalty was applied. Spirit levels dropped to 60%. Eat or perish immediately. To get the ultimate high score, he had to shatter the safe routine entirely. His plan: activate the nightmare difficulty and crush it. He rose from his seat ready for war. He smashed the plate, refusing the meal to trigger the first hidden rule. He had to bait the high difficulty mode and lure out a monster chef. System alert. He caught a chef's murderous gaze, spiking his death risk to 80%. The beast loomed. Eat or I'll shove your head in the bucket. He pivoted to phase 2 of his plan. Time to activate the hatred system and drop a chef. He moved like lightning, swinging his blade. A head rolled. System notification: serving chef, level 3 slain. 2 E-rank attribute cards obtained. Strength and stamina secured. Stage 2 of Slaughter Company was officially a war zone. Strength surged to level 5 and stamina to level 2. Suddenly, 2 system warnings flared red. Killing that chef caused the remaining 3 to hit a lethal 100% hatred. Hidden rule triggered strike first. Now, every monster would ignore the others to hunt him down. In exchange, points and loot increased by 10%. This was the brutal high-stakes mode. The hidden clearing rule: strike first. The level 3 fish slayer was the first to move. The fruit platter and vegetable chefs, both level 3, entered a state of pure berserk rage. Bloodlust flooded the room. He ditched the safe strategy to strike first, and there was no turning back. By pulling all the aggro, he became the room's sole target. His death flags were flying high. To save strength for the real boss, he couldn't afford to get surrounded or take hits. No wasted moves. With every monster locked onto his position, the real dance began. No more baiting. He bolted, but one chef closed the gap with a twisted, sadistic sneer. "No escape, little brat," the monster hissed. He parried the massive butcher knife with cold precision. The chef froze in shock. He just smirked, daring the beast to keep up with his speed. He unleashed a flurry of E-rank strikes. The monster had swallowed the bait. Now, for the boss. He wasn't strong enough yet, so he used these fodder chefs to juice up his blue vein sword. Steel sparked. The chef couldn't believe a human could match its legendary top-tier speed. The beast still expected victory, as the other chefs began flanking him from the shadows. They boxed him in, but he pivoted with a devastating swing, shattering the chef's guard completely. That raw power was off the charts. The monster's internal judgment had failed it entirely. What it didn't know was that the blue vein sword's exclusive skill was already fully primed. Sky-splitting slash. He whispered a thank you before the monster realized its life was over. He'd been holding back just to charge his blade. By the time it figured it out, it was too late. The dying chef screamed for the others to retreat. It was a trap. Too late. He struck first, tearing through the fish slayer and the rest in one clean sequence. The fruit and veggie chefs fell next. In this game, obvious flaws are just bait for a massacre. Loot dropped 3 stamina and 3 agility cards, all pure E-rank gold. Wen finally breathed. Every single move had been part of his master design from the start. System alert. A player has successfully triggered the lethal strike first hidden mechanic. The head chef entered a state of pure fury. Rage value 100%. Every stat jumped a level. Wen was rocked. He hadn't expected a hidden boss buff this massive. The heavy doors groaned open. The floor trembled as a wave of pure terror washed over everyone. Defeat this monstrosity or meet a grisly end. This was the hidden rule's final endgame. The boss appeared early, jacking up the difficulty, but the points and rewards were now astronomical. With strike first fulfilled, the boss's difficulty spiked, but so did the potential payout. A 30% reward boost. He didn't hesitate. He needed that power to survive the next floor. To reach the top, he needed this win. The head chef's massive hand crushed the doorframe. "Who slaughtered my staff?" The level 5 E-rank boss bellowed in a blind, murderous rage. Stats boosted: stamina level 6, strength level 8, and agility level 3. The nightmare begins now. Its bone-splitting, tendon-severing skill boosted its power. Wen watched, paralyzed by terror. Doubts plagued Wen. Could she win silence? She burned every attribute card to crush this hidden rule monster. No more holding back. She's stats peaked at E-rank level 5. The real fight begins now. Standard cards cap at 5. Those 2 leftover agility cards were officially dead weight to him. He flicked them to Wen, barking for him to use them. Wen instantly triggered the power-up. His agility spiked to 3, while his stamina lagged at level 1. The bystanders watched in envy. Instantly, they felt the burn of regret. Hesitation cost them. They could have been the ones powered up. Rumors swirled. Could those cards guarantee survival? Suddenly, the head chef's roar shattered the air again. It demanded to know who slaughtered its crew. Its voice carried enough weight to crush weaker spirits. The pressure was suffocating, making resistance seem like a joke. Yet Wen noticed something strange. He felt nothing. The cards had hardened his mind against the fear. The chef's patience finally snapped. It threatened a mass execution. Panic erupted as the crowd fled, but one figure didn't budge. She stepped out, parrying the chef's massive blade. A cold confession followed. I'm the one who killed them. The chef's face contorted in fury. It promised this ingredient would endure a slow, agonizing end. It wanted Shi to watch everyone die before losing his own head. Shi didn't even blink. He fired back, I'll have your head first. The chef laughed, daring him to try. The clash was explosive. Steel bit into steel, sending shockwaves that shattered the cafeteria floor. As smoke cleared, Wen searched for Shi. Deep down, level 8 strength felt like an impossible wall. A direct hit should have been fatal. Then a voice. She was fine, even cracking a joke. It's been a while since someone called me boss. Memories of the day of confinement resurfaced. Back then, he led a team. They had put their absolute faith in his leadership. But in the end, he was the sole survivor. For years, survivor's guilt had haunted him. The chef lunged, mocking his small stature. In that moment of crisis, everything finally clicked for Shi. The cleaver descended, but Shi deflected it with ease. The monster froze, sensing the shift. Shi's speed was blinding. He'd been holding back. He realized now why he was the only survivor. He survived because he never faltered. His hunger for victory surpassed everyone else's combined. With one clean strike, he felled the giant. True winners do whatever it takes to survive. But winning alone was a hollow victory. Reaching the end taught him a bitter lesson. He didn't just want to win. He wanted to protect his world and his people. Notification Stage 2 boss of Slaughter Company defeated. The chef's loot was finally ripe for taking. Thanks to the strike first rule, rewards jumped 30%. Strength, stamina, and agility cards all E rank. These new cards raised the stat cap to level 10. Power creep was officially in play. He also snagged a memory card to restore lost pasts plus a bonus head chef's surprise buff. This buff grants a random 3-level boost for 10 minutes. Without the hidden rule, he'd have nothing. Only the memory card was guaranteed. The rest were pure bonus. His contribution points were now skyrocketing. He checked the leaderboard. Shi sat comfortably at number 1, with 1,700 points. Han Senhai trailed with 300, followed by Liu Yan and Union. The gap was massive. These names were familiar. Just like before, the future legends were beginning to emerge. Their scores were low, but their potential was insane. These were the world's future protectors. They'd become humanity's backbone against the apocalypse. But she knew the dark truth ahead. The evil gods would only turn up the heat. They'd create hellscapes to cull the strong. That vicious cycle wiped everyone out last time. This time Shi had a different plan. He'd claim the S-rank card meant to counter that nightmare. He'd face his old rivals again. System alert staff cafeteria cleared. The final mission appeared. Escape the company immediately. Every player received the same order. Get to the lobby now. The final sprint had begun. Reach the goal before the clock hits 0 or face instant deletion. The real nightmare begins. They mobilized. Wen hesitated, heart racing before revealing he had a small gift for her. He held out his hand. Tissues. She blinked, confused as Wen mumbled it wasn't much. He'd scavenged them earlier, hoping she could clean her face. He felt like a total liability. If only he were stronger, she wouldn't have to carry this burden alone. She fell silent. In this hellscape, a spark of humanity remained. You're already doing enough, Wen, she replied. Tears welled in his eyes. Meanwhile, a monstrous army began mobilizing in the main lobby. The captain's command was chilling devour every single human once the countdown ends. Fail to reach the lobby and die. 4 minutes 36 seconds. Wen asked about her speed. Does having higher stats guarantee a win against those freaks? He looked for hope. It's about the soul behind the stats. Some are born athletes, others are brilliant thinkers. Wen's confidence crumbled. Even with agility level 5, he felt like a sitting duck. He watched her in awe. She had to be elite special forces or something beyond human. They hit the location. Stay here, Wen, and gather the rest of the survivors. Give them a single warning. Do not even think about running away. She revealed the stage's deadliest trap. Attempting to flee is an automatic death sentence. Even if the gates open, escape is a lie. Wen's face went pale with dread. You're soloing that horde. That's pure suicide. Those enemies are on a different level. Wen promised to spread the word. For once, someone actually placed their trust in him. She was a beast with a heart. But teammates triggered a hidden, easier conquest rule. There were other secrets, but at her current level, she couldn't brute force this alone. She needed a powerhouse. The ultimate DPS player, to bridge the gap to victory. 10 level 5 guards and a level 7 captain. This was a total meat grinder. Her memories proved teamwork was the only path. Solo play would mean certain death. Walking alone meant being surrounded and slaughtered. Suddenly a voice echoed from the stairs. She smirked. Her golden ticket to clearing this dungeon had just walked right in. A future legend. In her past life, this man was the absolute goat of combat. Winning wasn't just about rules. It was about this man carrying the team to victory. Xu Zhongyang, a warrior whose fame would eventually eclipse even her own. So you're the one using that nerd to boss us around, he sneered, feeling insulted. It was just a friendly reminder, she replied. He admitted her early performance was impressive. He hadn't flexed yet, but he understood the game. I'll crush you, then the boss. He lunged. She didn't flinch. You're simply not on my level yet, Zhang Yang. With one slap, she grounded him. He realized her strength defied all normal human limits. It's the game's power, she confirmed. This next floor is a psychological nightmare. Join my squad and 3 attribute cards are yours. Zhang Yang just laughed. Why should I trust you? Because of this card, she said, eyes glowing with certainty. Memory card activated. The dungeon's cruelest trick. It erases every trace of your past. Without memories, humans lose their heart. No anchors means no unity and no survival. The gods played with human nature like puppets. She'd seen this tragedy play out before. Luckily, this card restores the lost. She knew exactly what Zhang Yang lived for. A vision flashed a child named Zhang Yu. The shock hit him like a lightning strike. That image was enough. He had a reason to survive. Someone was waiting for him. He looked at her desperate. Can we really clear this hellhole together? Without a doubt, she promised, handing him the cards. It's time to move. Yong took the deal, vowing to repay the debt. Suddenly, his physical stats, strength, stamina, and agility hit level 1. She barked out the strategy. Zhang had to tank a portion of the mob, while she handled the rest. With a nod from Zhang, she unleashed his E+ rank strength cards, plus the head chef's secret buff. His strength skyrocketed to level 7, yet that still wasn't sufficient to crush the upcoming boss. He needed level 9 to be safe. Now everything rested on that single buff. The chef's surprise buff kicked in, surging his strength by 3 more levels for a 10-minute window. She felt the power. This stage was doable now, but a hidden rule promised to push his limits even further. That reward was absolute gold. Moments later, the duo stepped into the heart of the monster's domain. The security monsters recoiled in shock. Just 2 humans. They scanned the shadows, convinced more were lurking. One beast sneered at their lean frames, mocking the lack of meat. Another let out a guttural laugh, betting on how many baton strikes they'd endure before snapping. Immediately, Zhang felt the crushing pressure. It was his first true face-off with monsters. The thick bloodlust in the air was suffocating. Doubt flickered. Could they actually win this? But then she took a confident step forward, declaring that the 2 of them were more than enough to slaughter them all. Yang saw zero fear in Shi's eyes. He steeled his nerves and stood his ground. The system chimed. They'd reached the ground floor lobby, early, triggering a skirmish with the security team. Suddenly, the hidden reward of courage activated. Both warriors gained a +1 strength boost, briefly catapulting Shi's power to level 11. With the chef's buff active, his strength soared by 3 levels while his stamina and agility sat at level 5. Yang hit level 2 strength, his other stats at level 1. With this explosive surge in power, Shi stepped up, declaring himself the true boss of this floor. He charged, ignoring Zhang frantic shout to stop. Zhang feared it was reckless. Back in his underground boxing days, he'd faced many mysterious, unpredictable opponents. To him, the ultimate play was to analyze their rhythm before delivering a lethal finisher. Meanwhile, the monsters were salivating, ready to tear Shi apart. Yang worried that diving in blind would lead to a total disaster. He expected a brutal defeat. The monsters sneered, completely underestimating the weak humans before them. A beast lunged, but Shi's counter was instantaneous. Yang realized then, with that insane speed and force, one hit was all it took. Sensing a real threat, the monsters swarmed him all at once. The system blared a final warning: all players must enter the lobby immediately for the final stage. Fail to arrive before the timer hits 0, and it's game over. 56 seconds remained on the clock. She realized the trap: anyone entering the lobby would be instantly ambushed by the horde. It was another sick hidden rule. With 49 seconds left, she began a frantic slaughter to clear a path for Wen's group. Right on cue, Wen led the survivors forward with perfect discipline. She smirked. Wen had perfectly decoded his play. He saw through Shi's entire grand design. That midway stall wasn't an accident, and Wen knew it. His job was to buy time and rush the group in at the last second. 12 seconds left. Yang finally leaped into the fray. He targeted a weak-looking beast, but Shi barked an order to stand down and focus on protecting the others. One monster, realizing Shi was a monster himself, ordered the pack to target the weaklings. This was Zhang moment. As a beast lunged for Wen, Zhang snatched its head and delivered a devastating haymaker. He refused to let these things feast on his people. If Shi wanted them alive, there had to be a reason. To his horror, the monster barely flinched. He wasn't dealing any real damage. How was Shi making this look so effortless? Meanwhile, Wen hissed at the group to stay still and avoid detection. He placed his full faith in their leader. The terrified crowd nodded, clinging to that hope. In this desperate hour, they pinned everything on Shi. Suddenly, the blue-veined sword skill hit full charge. The monster leader screamed for an all-out assault to wipe Shi out in a single coordinated strike. Shi had the same idea. In one blurred legendary stroke, he annihilated them all, leaving Wen's group in absolute awe. Having a powerhouse like her around felt like a total cheat code. Zhang Yang watched in awe, baffled by her endless stamina, while a single mob had left him completely spent. She leveled her blade at the final nightmare, marking it for death. Standing before her was the security captain, a level 7 boss boasting a terrifying level 10 strength stat. With level 7 agility and level 8 stamina, its health remained at a perfect 100%. The captain sneered, claiming that slaughtering a girl like her would be pure ecstasy. Pure terror gripped the crowd. Staring at those monstrous stats, Wen's heart sank in her previous life. This encounter was a literal bloodbath that claimed dozens of souls. Back then, bringing this beast down was a grueling war of attrition. But now, her strikes were a blur of cold steel. This time, she was the only army needed. Before the security captain could even blink, his blade had already shredded the beast into pieces. Now at level 8 with 200 experience points, his raw strength surged to level 14. While his stamina and agility hit level 8, his skills remained sealed. He gripped the blue vein sword. Factoring in the chef's secret buff and a courage reward, his physical power leveled up once more. Thanks to a mysterious blessing, every slain monster dropped high-tier E+ rank attribute cards. With these dual buffs stacked, his combat potential reached an absolutely insane level 14. He was now a lone wolf, hoarding every scrap of experience and attribute card for himself. In his past life, he was a mere level 2 when he realized the boss was terrifyingly strong. His power was barely human, and the others were already plotting to ride his legendary coattails. He watched Zhang Yang struggle, knowing the final monster's demise was imminent. Zhang Yang bellowed that his final strike would end it. The beast threatened him, but he executed it in one blur. No need to sweat it, he scoffed. Zhang Yang stood frozen, crushed by his own insignificance. The monster they feared was just fodder for him. Suddenly, the system chime echoed through the area. The E-rank Slaughter Company dungeon was officially cleared. His contribution sat at a staggering 99.9%. The others weren't even on the map. He eagerly awaited the massive rewards his total domination earned. The loot settlement for the E-rank Slaughter Company dungeon was finally underway. Every survivor received a participation prize, an E-rank, all-attribute activation card for their efforts. Dungeon loot was officially going global. The players buzzed with relief, finally seeing a way home. Surviving this hell was a grind, but staying alive secured the basic essentials to keep going. These buffs ensured they'd live another day, though he knew power would corrupt the weak-willed. He planned to establish player management laws immediately to keep these new superpowers under control. To rule the coming chaos, he needed the world's most powerful figures in his corner. His name at the top of the global leaderboard would be the ultimate bait for the elite. He took first place with 3,000 points, leaving Han Shanghai trailing with only 510. With the others far behind, his total dominance over this deadly game was now undeniable. The survivors activated their E-rank cards, feeling the rush of newfound power flowing through them. Strength, speed, and mana hit level 1. Suddenly, their exhausted bodies felt as light as air. Wen celebrated his new stats, level 4 agility and level 1 in everything else. Not bad. Yang finally felt the rush, realizing that attribute points were the key to absolute power. Meanwhile, our hero was level 8 with 15 strength and 9 agility. A literal god among men. He still carried the chef's surprise buff and his own legendary courage for extra power. Now came the real payout, the specialized rewards, based on their actual contribution to the fight. Wen braced for disappointment, knowing his contribution was practically invisible on the final charts. Zhang Yang kicked himself for playing it safe. Even our hero was curious about his massive payout. In his past life, he never reached these heights. Wen's tiny contribution was the first to be tallied. Wen pulled an E-rank strength card surprised. Next was Zhang Yang with his slightly better score. Zhang Yang scored strength and stamina cards, proving that every bit of effort in this dungeon pays off. The group stared in awe, dying to see the loot, a 99% contribution earned. Even he was intrigued. Dominating a dungeon this hard was a first for him as well. Boom, a max attribute card to hit level 10 instantly, plus a legendary special class change card. This card offered a random change with a real chance at an elite S-rank class. Finally, a permanent team formation card allowed him to drag 2 allies into any future dungeon. This was the foundation of his future empire. His luck today was straight up legendary. Suddenly, the world trembled. Panic flared as the ground beneath their feet began to heave violently. The nightmare pixels away. This was it. The gate was finally opening back to the real world. She announced a brief reprieve for the survivors, but he knew the truth the moment they logged in. Their reality shattered forever. An unknown force was cannibalizing their world through this sick slaughter game. The crowd stood paralyzed by the revelation. Next time, give everything, she warned. The next dungeon awaited. Slay the bosses, seize their power. He urged them to evolve quickly enough to shield their dying world. Zhang Yang smirked at the bold declaration before they all vanished. Then the global announcement rang out. Ranked first on the World Player Contribution Board, his reward an S-rank special card with God-tier potential. He had to be careful. Suddenly, a winged entity appeared, a single eye staring from its chest. It watched him, promising divine authority if he kept performing. Then he woke up in a hospital, a heavy breath of relief. He prayed, others were listening, saving the world wasn't a solo quest. The nurse gasped, dropping her tray in shock. He was awake. She scrambled to find the doctor. The medical exam was flawless. Clear, mind, perfect vitals. He was a total anomaly to the staff. 3 days in a coma. He wasn't alone. Hundreds of thousands had fallen at the exact same moment. This was no coincidence. As the world spiraled, he had only one question. Where is my mother? The doctor led the way, eyes averted. He didn't have answers, only a path to her room. There she was, trapped in a deep sleep since the day he fell. Vitals were steady but distant. Medically, she was a vegetable. But he knew she was just another pawn in the game's first wave. History was repeating itself. She had been drafted into the initial batch of the day of confinement. The selection happened in cruel phases. Those who failed the trial stayed in a permanent vegetative state. In his past life, he failed her. This time, he would ensure she lived a life of peace. He clutched S-rank card 001, Freedom. It could exempt a player from the game's cycle. It also granted total dungeon mobility. Without hesitation, he activated the card to liberate his mother's soul. The hospital room erupted in a blinding celestial glow. The doctor cried out as reality began to warp. Impossible, the doctor stammered. Against every medical law, his mother's eyes finally flickered open. She looked around, dazed and lost. He pulled her into a desperate embrace, whispering a solemn promise. Never again, he vowed. While the doctor called it a miracle, the rest of the world was moving. Powerful factions caught wind of the #1 world contributor. The hunt to recruit him had begun. They saw a future king. He just saw his family. His mother spoke of a terrifying amusement park, monsters and chaos. A carnival of death where creatures hunted humans like sport in the dark. He listened intently. That amusement park was her starter dungeon, a nightmare designed to cull the weak. She described a beast's claws closing in before her world went black. She remembered nothing else. When her vision returned, she saw his face. She thought it was a dream. He knew better. Suddenly, a loud voice shattered the silence. Someone was shouting about transmigrating into a new world. It was Ching. Just like before, he had cleared the tutorial and woken up with main character energy. Ching burst in, convinced he was a manga protagonist. He was hyped, totally oblivious to the stakes. He bragged about the elite players who led their squad through the dungeon's most dangerous sectors. His mother listened, wondering if they shared the same dream. He just watched Ching's childish antics. Some things never change. He ushered the loudmouth out, telling his mother to get some real rest. Bro, I'm serious, Ching insisted outside. It was all real. He looked him dead in the eye. The day of confinement, he said calmly. Ching froze. How did he know the system's secret name? Those powers are crossing into reality. Ching, open the World Player Leaderboard. See for yourself. Ching pulled up the interface, his jaw hitting the floor. He couldn't believe the name at the top. That's you. He confirmed it with a nod. He was the undisputed #1. A system ping echoed. He activated his player class change card. The true awakening was starting. These cards were legendary rarities. Early on, classes were fragile, but their ultimate potential was limitless. Most were weak seeds, but 3 specific paths were destined to rule this new broken world. First was Elementalist, evolving into 4 symbols ultimate, commanding wind, fire, water, and thunder. Next, Dragonblood Descendant, which transforms into the catastrophic Black Flame Dragon, King of Demise. It shifts into a massive wyvern, breathing absolute destruction. Then came the Seeker of Wisdom. Wisdom evolves into Sage of Time, crossing a legendary class controlling time itself. Totally unprecedented. In his former life, he only caught whispers of it through cryptic system alerts. With the draw being random, his curiosity spiked. What would he actually pull? Suddenly, Apprentice of All Phenomena flashed on the screen. He had never heard of it. The status panel updated. He was now an Apprentice of All Phenomena grade, still hidden. His talent, Resonance of Tools. It let him see the logical flow within every object. He could transcend physical limits, bonding with weapons or items, until mind and steel merged. Shockingly, this class possessed 5 evolution stages, while most others capped at only 3. The difficulty was astronomical, far beyond common logic. He wondered about its final absolute form. Even as the world's former peak player, his blood began to pump with genuine excitement. Ching's jaw hit the floor. The world announcement just crowned Shi as the first class holder. Stunned, Shi asked what he wanted. Ching instantly grabbed his leg, begging for a carry. Just then, a nurse entered asking if she was interrupting. She looked concerned. He shuddered. In his past life, this exact moment brought a mountain of debt and trouble. She explained his mother's prepayments were gone. Plus, his own bills were over a month late. Ching whipped out his card, offering his last few thousand. She calmly told him to stop. He would handle it. Previously, he sold his strength as a high-end bodyguard for the elite. A player's raw power completely eclipsed any normal human. This time, the burden was his alone. He refused to be a weight on his mother again. Suddenly, the nurse's phone rang. Her face paled as she listened. She was visibly shaken by the voice on the line. She told Shi his worries were over. Someone just dropped a massive fortune on his bills. It covered 100 years of care. Even the guy with the buzz cut was fully paid. Ching pointed at himself, confused. He panicked, swearing he wasn't a patient, just visiting a friend. Before they could react, a voice asked for Ward 226. A blonde man entered. Beside him stood a green-haired lady and a man in a sharp striped suit. Ching demanded their names. The blonde stranger asked if he was a close friend of Shi. The woman noted they had vital business. The suited man politely requested an audience with Shi. Shi smirked. They arrived faster than expected. These were the titans from the day of confinement. Ching wondered why these obvious VIPs wanted his friend. Their expensive clothes spoke volumes. He figured they wanted the world's #1, but then he calculated those century-long fees. Why would they pay for him too? He wasn't even admitted, the nurse whispered the truth. These people were the secret donors. She nodded, admitting he already knew their identity. She was floored. She stepped forward, confirming he was the man they were searching for. The blonde man was impressed. Despite their heavy presence, She didn't flinch. He stayed icy calm. Truly the world's top ranker, though his youthful appearance was a massive surprise. She recognized these power players. They moved the world's economy and politics with a finger. The blonde was Xiao Ming, a political rising star and head of a national conglomerate. The man in the suit, Ding Yiyun, CEO of global tech, with deep military ties. Zhang Xilin followed leader of an energy empire, controlling resources across the entire planet. Ming acknowledged his fame. Yiyun offered a greeting. Xilin assumed he needed an introduction. She cut her off. He knew exactly who they were. Skip the pleasantries. Get to the point. Their eyes widened. As expected of the world's #1, he was clearly no ordinary person. Shilin's curiosity piqued. She offered a private venue for their talk, but she shut it down instantly. He refused to move an inch, insisting the doctor's office was plenty for their conversation. After a tense silence, the elites folded and followed him. Shilin realized she was the ultimate shot caller. Meanwhile, Ching and the nurse just stood there, completely jaw-dropped by the shift in power. Ching was reeling. 10 minutes ago, she was a broke patient who couldn't even pay his bills. Now, world-class powerhouses were trailing him like shadows. She told Ching to grab the guide and follow. Ching was stunned to be included, wondering if he even belonged in such elite company. He hesitated over the guide, making Shilin suspicious. Ching's heart sank as he started to sweat. Panicked, he admitted he'd tossed the joke notebook into the trash and bolted to retrieve it. She was low-key annoyed. Now he knew why Ching and his mom failed the novice dungeon. He silently promised that brat a serious beatdown later. Shilin pressed him about the mentioned strategy guide. She confirmed it a complete walkthrough for every single novice dungeon in the game. The elites were shaken. How could such a guide exist when the world just ended? They begged him to stop joking. She just smirked, saying they'd see the truth soon enough. Outside, guards stood sentinel, while the hospital director cleared the entire floor for their secret meeting. The hospital staff were left baffled, wondering what kind of legends were huddled inside that office. Ming scanned the notebook and froze. It was the real deal. Every monster and hidden rule was documented. Shilin and Ye Yun turned pale as they saw their own harrowing dungeon experiences laid bare. It was all there. Ching leaned in, whispering if this literal cheat sheet was actually legit. Shi's response was cold. If you'd listened earlier, you'd be top tier by now. Ching felt like crying. The three elites realized they hadn't come to recruit a teammate, but to beg for a master. Shi's intel was simply on another level. What are you guys actually getting at? She asked. You're like a prophet who sees the future, Shilin whispered. She didn't even try to deny it. In his past life, humanity had documented every horror just to survive another night on the forums. He'd burned every rule into his brain, never dreaming those memories would become his greatest weapon. Now this knowledge was the ultimate leverage to finally crush those arrogant evil gods. Shilin cut to the chase, asking what he wanted. The powerhouses shared a look and bowed deeply. They begged Shi to become their consultant for the day of confinement. Ming looked genuinely shaken. The memory of almost dying was terrifying. With Shi's help, the next round might actually be survivable. They knew they'd be dragged back in soon, and they weren't ready to meet their maker. Ching watched breathless as they offered Shi a blank check for his cooperation. Shi confidently stated that a consultancy role wasn't out of the question, looking like an absolute legend. Ching knew Shi's family had been drowning in poverty, and this was finally their golden ticket. No more backbreaking labor for his aunt. He even imagined spending all his time training with Shi. Shi set the price 3 absolute conditions. Ching was grinning, seeing one request turn into 3. That's when Ching knew who the real boss was. The elites didn't even blink at the demand. Give us 300 conditions and we'd still say yes, they urged. Just tell us your price. Qing's face went white, worried Shi was lowballing himself. Then Shi dropped his first bombshell demand. He ordered them to make the novice dungeon walkthrough public for every survivor out there. Print it, post it, he didn't care. The elites couldn't believe he'd give away such a treasure. Ye Yun reminded him that the market value of that info was beyond his wildest imagination. Shilin added that in this death game, nobody gambles with their life by sharing secrets. Shi reminded them he'd already given it to them for nothing. His goals were on another level. He wasn't just out for profit, he wanted to save everyone. Without this, the deal was dead. The room fell silent as they realized Shi's resolve was rock solid. He wasn't playing games. Eon saw her unwavering resolve. Secretly, Shilin was floored by his icy composure and unexpectedly golden heart. To her, he was a diamond in the rough. Without skipping a beat, they greenlit his first demand. Their mission, global dissemination at warp speed. Then came the second condition, shifting the vibe. He demanded a player administration bureau and ironclad laws. The goal, absolute control over these new superhuman threats. Order must be maintained before the world fractures. They nodded their agendas, finally aligning perfectly with his. No more god-tier players terrorizing the weak. With that settled, he moved to his final request. The trio held their breath as he paused. Was he about to drop a world-shattering bombshell? They braced for an impossible price tag. Qing frantically hoped it was just a massive pile of cash. The demand, just a house. Nothing flashy, just a place to finally call home. He was done living in a psych ward with his mom. He just wanted her to taste normalcy. The simplicity of it left them speechless. Qing felt a weird wave of letdown. He'd hesitated, fearing he'd look like a pathetic beggar for asking for something so personal. They shut that down instantly. This wasn't a favor. They were practically begging to provide it. Securing his home became their top priority. He thanked them but told them to chill out. They took a breath, but the gears were turning. This was the ultimate chance to buy his loyalty. A silent war broke out between the three big shots over who'd provide the best crib. With the deal sealed, she prepared to head out. But the MC knew the peace wouldn't last. He dropped a truth bomb the next day of confinement countdown was about to go live. Panic surged as the system notification flared to life. The ticking clock of the next round began. Visible only to survivors, the timer read 72 hours, 3 days until the next nightmare. Handle my conditions and I'll write the blueprint for every round 2 dungeon. Get moving. They bowed in sync, feeling the weight of the deadline. Then a knock shattered the silence. A guard burst in stuttering about a visitor. Yi Yun nearly lost it. No one should interrupt. The guard panicked. It's his girlfriend. Everyone froze in absolute shock. Qing's jealousy flared instantly, but the MC shut him down before the rumors could spiral. I'm single, he snapped. Just then, a stunning woman clutching a bouquet waltzed inside. The guard's protests were ignored. The power players watched, sensing a whole different kind of drama. Shilin noted they looked like a power couple, but the MC's expression was pure disgust. Flashback, she dumped him like trash, mocking him for being a mental patient with zero future. Old school friends now turned into fellow players. But her past cruelty hadn't been forgotten. She offered flowers and a fake apology. The big shots saw right through her performance. Before things got messy, Qing stepped up as a human shield blocking her path to the MC. He dragged her for her audacity. You humiliated him publicly. Now get lost. She played the young and dumb card, trying to tearfully manipulate her way back in. But he saw through the mask. She was just clout chasing after seeing his name on the leaderboard. Shilin's eyes narrowed as the woman's scheme became clear. She admitted it, but expected mercy. She assumed he'd still protect her. Qing was absolutely livid at her delusional entitlement. That wasn't a rejection, it was character assassination, Qing hissed. The MC signaled for calm. He kept it cool, reminding them they were in a hospital. Time to end this circus. With one final look, he crushed her hopes. We were only ever friends. I never liked you. Refusing to accept defeat, she offered herself as his girlfriend if he'd just carry her. She chased him like a desperate shadow, but the guards formed a wall of cold steel. She screamed her fake status to the world, but the MC didn't even look back. He wanted zero contact. Shilin scoffed at her Delulu behavior. She was never in his league. The order was given. Guards seized her, ending her desperate play for power. Her frantic pleas went ignored as Jing praised Shi's growth. Together, they hurried toward the medical wing. Anticipating someone inside, he threw open the door. A silver-haired woman turned locking eyes with him. Shi's mother mentioned Xiao Erui's return visit. The silver-haired girl noted the aunt said he'd stepped out. She'd been tidying the room while waiting. Smiling, she remarked that it had been ages since they met. He was baffled she'd visited last week, but his past life memory showed her soaked in a crimson pool. Her final breath had urged him to live. In this life, he swore no one important would die. He pulled her into a sudden hug, making her blush. Jing watched the scene unfold with suspicion. Jing questioned if they were truly just friends. That night, the hospital mysteriously upgraded their entire ward. Their new suite radiated Ming's massive influence. Meanwhile, the system's countdown screen flickered ominously. 63 hours remained. He expected the next dungeon to mirror his previous life's class change trial. He unlocked tool resonance, a skill that changed how he perceived every object he touched. Focusing on the bed, he felt his mind dissecting its entire structural blueprint. His insight into the furniture deepened instantly. He realized the second screw on the left leg was failing. Unfortunately, the hospital lacked any real steel to test. Without weapons, his analysis hit a wall. Suddenly, a booming voice declared him worthy to enter the god's trial. He froze. It was that haunting voice from his past memories. The voice had haunted him since birth. He demanded to know its identity and the qualifications' meaning. The entity promised future answers, but offered a choice: now undergo the god's trial or not. This voice held the power to crush evil gods. He knew this was his only shot. With cold determination, he accepted. The entity grinned, satisfied as the trial space materialized. Victory meant returning home. The alternative: he'd be entombed here forever. Suddenly, she was warped through space by a mysterious holy force. The energy felt sacred, yet terrifying. Escape was the goal, but he craved the legendary rewards. The trial grounds finally stabilized. She landed, scanning the horizon as a strange landscape formed. A majestic palace left him confused. The trial giver then manifested as a swirling ethereal mist. Massive wings loomed within the fog. It told She the trial was simple: slay his opponent within 10 minutes to survive. It warned that only absolute perception could win. The clock started. Before him stood the eyeless Oathkeeper, an invincible immortal blade master. The 10-minute timer began ticking. She carefully analyzed every muscle twitch of his new foe. The warrior wore gleaming silver and gold armor, a massive blue cape fluttering behind him. Blindfolded with blonde hair, he gripped a colossal sword. But his back revealed a gruesome fusion. A skeletal corpse was melded into his spine. The ultimate player now faced the ultimate swordsman. Manifesting a weapon for the duel, the system finally answered his need for a test. He hoped to trigger resonance, but the system flagged the blade as a non-physical object. It wouldn't resonate. He realized the skill required tangible, real-world matter to function. This sword was a mere illusion. No time for games. He planned to end this instantly. He wondered what this strongest could do. Suddenly, the swordsman lunged with terrifying speed. She blocked the heavy impact, feeling the knight's raw power as he pivoted for another strike. The speed was shocking. Even with a massive greatsword, the knight moved like lightning. The foe dropped into a finishing stance. A radiant arc of energy followed his earth-shattering slash. The floor exploded into shrapnel. It was a heavy, lightning-fast blow, forcing She to leap skyward. Mid-air, She spotted a fatal opening. One small mistake that could decide the entire battle. Knowing his foe was just a phantom projection, She felt no hesitation. He struck for the kill. His blade nearly severed the knight's head. A fatal wound. No, it regenerated instantly. Now he understood the title. The uninjured swordsman was a monster that simply wouldn't die. Decapitation was no longer the goal. He searched for a new path, remembering the beast's cryptic warning. Only the wisdom to see through everything could secure victory. That hint was his only lifeline. He spotted the jagged skeleton strapped to the knight's back. One test strike proved the knight was guarding it. The title, Eyeless Oathkeeper, finally made sense. His sacred vow was to shield the soul behind him. He finally had the winning move. Meanwhile, the entity watched, judging if he was truly worthy of power. Divine favor was the prize, but swordsmanship alone wouldn't cut it. Killing the immortal sentinel seemed impossible. Only 2 minutes and 19 seconds remained. He lunged forward, ripping the blindfold from the knight's face. Even the watching god was stunned. Instead of a killing blow, he ordered the knight to finally see. He forced the warrior to face his charge, a mere pile of bones. The Oathkeeper slowly turned around. Shock paralyzed him. Seeing the skeleton broke his spirit, and his body began to fade into nothingness. 51 seconds left on the clock. He realized the answer had been hidden in the riddle all along. The unkillable guardian would only fall if his oath failed. That starting weapon was just a clever distraction. It was a total red herring. He called out to the mist, and the god emerged, confirming his theory. The simplest truths are often the hardest to see, yet he had pierced through the divine illusion. Impressed by his insight, the god prepared the blessing. He wondered what kind of insane power awaited him. Blinding light consumed him. The god warned this was the true trial he had to endure or perish. He questioned the new challenge. The god explained that claiming the blessing meant surviving the raw divine source. He'd feel the psychic weight of every living soul, their agony, their joy, and their deepest rages. The prayers of billions flooded his mind. Suddenly, he plummeted into an eerie, blood-red void of despair. Terrifying screams echoed everywhere. Thousands of hollow masked faces stared at him from the suffocating darkness. Visions of countless lives surged through him. He realized divine power was fueled by the world's collective faith. Earth's massive energy surged within him. Despite the pressure, a wild smirk spread across his face. He burst into a manic laugh. With Earth's gods behind him, he'd crush the invading evil deities. The god watched as he faced a mental shockwave that should have shattered any human mind. He expected a broken shell, but the boy was still standing. The deity's interest was finally piqued, as expected from the chosen one. The blessing was his, but the god's name had to be remembered. Full approval would grant the ultimate blessing. He had endless questions, but the god vanished instantly. He panicked, realizing he missed the name. Suddenly, he bolted awake in a hospital bed, checking his status. A system alert appeared. He had gained Mental Guardian, a permanent shield against all psychological attacks. He was now immune to mental manipulation. The grantor Seraph Gabriel. Finally, the name was revealed. This was clearly that locked, unidentified blessing. Being immune to mental attacks was a massive tear-up. The skill was incredible, but his thoughts drifted to the other gods Gabriel had mentioned, and that ultimate blessing. He never dreamed his past mental trauma was actually a divine connection. His illness was the presence of Earth's gods. The key to saving the world was inside him all along. Ching obsessively tracked the countdown, shocked to find a high-quality video simulation playing on the screen. His rowdiness earned him a smack. "Keep it down, we're in a hospital," Ching hissed excitedly. She showed him the hyper-realistic dungeon footage. Even Ji's mother smiled, seeing their tight bond. Their friendship was unbreakable. Ji watched the video, acknowledging how efficient Ming's team truly was. In under 2 days, the game's promo videos had already gone viral across the entire internet. They'd even partnered with the government to establish the official Player Management Bureau. The Special Action Bureau was live, featuring the World Leaderboard. He wondered if his actions would spark a revolution. Would this allow legendary players to finally rise? A nurse interrupted, telling him to look outside. A massive convoy had arrived just for him. Ching rushed to the window, eyes wide in disbelief. A fleet of black SUVs sat waiting. The 3 heavy hitters were there, flanked by elite guards. Backup cars trailed the lead limo. Shilin spotted them and signaled it was time to move. The moment they arrived to escort him to his new home, Shiqing's excitement reached a fever pitch. Stunned by the massive convoy, he commented on the spectacle, while she urged him to get moving. He internally questioned why the wealthy loved such grand displays, noticing the deepening concern on his mother's face. She begged him to stay away from criminal activities, leaving Shiqing utterly baffled by her sudden fear. He promised they were innocent, claiming he was merely saving humanity, a statement that left her even more lost. Though the nurse dismissed it as crazy talk, she knew the shocking truth would eventually become impossible to ignore. They arrived at Ming's hand-picked villa, a breathtaking sanctuary nestled between majestic peaks and shimmering crystal waters. Stocked with premium organic goods, the estate boasted 16 elite guards and 8 nannies on 24/7 duty. It was the peak of luxury for his family, yet she decided to scout the other available options. Shiqing's lack of interest shocked everyone, forcing Ming to admit he had completely misjudged the hero's taste. With Ming's offer rejected, Ye Yun and Shilin waited ready to present their own competing luxury estates. While Shilin sensed an opening, Ye Yun felt invincible, certain his selection would finally win over the hero. Yun insisted that a genius like she deserved a throne overlooking the sprawling skyline of Qingshan City. Shiqing's eyes lit up at the panoramic view as Yun revealed the apartment was inside an iconic landmark. Crafted by a legendary architect, this penthouse was the undisputed crown jewel of the entire tower's residential suites. Yun had a secret bonus ready, and a thrilled Shiqing commanded the hidden guests to step forward. He had handpicked 10 stunningly beautiful young women to serve as Xi's personal elite household staff. Shiqing's heart raced as a squad of goddess-tier beauties swarmed him, vying for his immediate attention. Ming and Shilin stood frozen, outplayed by Yun's bold move, as he smugly assumed his trap was irresistible. Shockingly, Xi just walked away, leaving Yun speechless, a clear sign that this man was built differently from others. While Ming held on to a sliver of hope, Shilin stepped up to showcase her carefully selected property. Her choice lacked flash, but she had bet everything on her deep research into his family's emotional history. She banked on nostalgia, and the realization hit Xi instantly. This was the very home from his childhood. Memory flooded back of selling it for medical bills, while the rivals conceded defeat as Shilin told her story. Despite multiple owners, she had meticulously restored every inch to recreate the warmth and comfort he once knew. Touched by her sincerity, she observed that the layout perfectly mirrored the sanctuary of his early youth. He gratefully accepted, but she insisted the pleasure was all hers, considering it a true honor to help him. Crushed by their total defeat, the men watched as Xi prepared to hand a mysterious item over to Shilin. As she questioned him, Shiqing presented the Holy Grail complete strategy guides for the upcoming second-round dungeons. These handwritten scrolls were the ultimate weapon for veterans who had already survived the brutal novice trials. She was floored that such priceless intelligence was just casually stuffed into his waistband like ordinary scrap paper. When asked about a mass release, Xi declined, preferring to handpick a select few worthy of this knowledge. He prioritized raw potential, knowing the game demanded players evolve and find strength within their own souls. Luck-based survivors would fail regardless. His goal was to filter out the weak and cultivate a true elite force. They would provide the foundation, but the absolute monsters of the game would inevitably rise to the top themselves. Grasping his vision, Shilin questioned his ultimate motive for assembling such a powerful vanguard of players. His answer sent shockwaves through the room. He needed an army to help him save the entire world. With less than 3 hours until the next phase, a confident Shicheng declared his total readiness for battle. Lugging a massive pack of essential gear, he gave his mother a final reassuring hug before departing. When she asked their destination, he playfully replied, they were just heading out on a grand interdimensional adventure. As the timer hit 0, the chosen ones braced for transport, while Shi bid a final farewell to Mrs. Luo. Trusting Shi's solo capabilities, he stayed back, while Shi vowed to dominate the global leaderboards for everyone to see. Reality warped as they were summoned to the next trial, the treacherous and freezing extreme cold apartment dungeon. In this D-rank hellscape, there were no more beginners, only hunters tasked with executing the lethal floor boss. The final 5-minute countdown began, the heavy gates standing between them and the absolute chaos of the dungeon. The system's hints were a total trap. Simply sniping the boss wouldn't be enough to clear this frozen hellhole. He desperately needed an ally he could trust. The true victory condition required a perfectly synchronized partnership. Their mission lured 2 bosses from opposite floors into the center and force a fatal cinematic collision. Only then would the dungeon shatter. After all, the sting of his previous life's betrayal remained razor-sharp. He sought his soul's most trusted ally as the permanent team card's legendary effect ignited. Ruwei appeared, her eyes wide with shock. She stammered, wondering how on earth she ended up in this place. He confessed that he'd pulled her into this death game. In his memories of the past, she should have been stranded on a tiny island, staring at strange holographic system prompts, just like these. In his past life, she debuted as a player during his second run, surviving a brutal island survival trial. That island nightmare had scarred her soul forever. This time he brought her here specifically to rewrite her tragic fate. He refused to let her suffer again. Stunned, she asked how he could possibly know about her hidden location. Suddenly the system flared. Welcome to the D-rank dungeon, the extreme cold apartment. The name rang a bell. She'd scrolled past a viral video about this digital prison once. Day of confinement, he clarified. He needed a teammate who'd never stab his back, so he chose her. 2.5 minutes remained before the doors hissed open, unleashing the bloodthirsty horrors within. Extending his hand, he asked her to be his partner. The gesture mirrored a core childhood memory, reminiscent of when they were kids. Back then, she'd hesitated but eventually took his hand anyway. This time, she didn't blink before agreeing. With 22 seconds left, he checked if she'd memorized the plan. She nodded, every detail locked in. Danger lurked everywhere, making every single touch a potential death sentence. This wasn't a simple building, it was a multi-level labyrinth. To secure a win, the 2 floor bosses had to meet. He gripped the handle, ready to plunge into the icy unknown. Ruwei steeled herself to be the perfect ally. The air inside hit like a frozen blade, biting deep. He promised the cold would fade once they looted attribute cards. Knowing exactly where the prey hid, he marched forward. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, causing his expression to turn icy. It was his past life betrayer, looking just as pathetic as ever, shivering and whining about the freezing temperature. Terrified of a sneak attack, the man looked relieved to find other players hoping to use them as shields. The protagonist already knew the play, except the team-up. The man wore a mask of honest desperation, easily tricking the naive. But behind that face was a parasitic snake who fed on his own teammates. Before, he'd acted like a gentle friend to gain trust, only to cower during every life-or-death struggle. He'd played the weakling card perfectly, but it was all a lie. Once the protagonist was exhausted, the rat had finally struck. He'd waited for the boss to fall, just to steal the attribute loot. A blade in the back left him bleeding out. That day he'd stared death in the face. A savior had appeared then. Now the snake offered to watch his back once more in this life. The man claimed they'd be safer together. In reality, he was already plotting a double murder. He lusted after the woman and covetously eyed the protagonist's superior gleaming sword. He begged for a partnership, but having felt his steel before the protagonist struck first, shock painted the man's face. Pure karma took over as he left the traitor to rot alone. Ruwei didn't question the sudden violence. Her trust in him was absolute and completely unwavering. They pressed on to gear her up. Suddenly, an elite player appeared, scanning the wounded traitor. The target matched the intel. Could a guy who shared high-level guides really be a cold-blooded killer? Liu Mao, rank 34 on the leaderboards, decided this mysterious player was worth tracking closely. They found a monster dangling in a room. Kicking the door open, he found his intended target. It was a level 5 hanging cold spirit boasting high agility but pathetic stamina and mana pools. The beast lunged with a screeching wail. Ruwei flinched, but he just glared, telling it to pipe down. Annoyed by the noise, he delivered a massive slap that sent the spirit crashing into oblivion. Our duo snatched up some E-rank stamina cards to boost their low-level stats. Seeing him fight, Ruwei wondered if this was his daily routine. He explained that he wasn't really trying. Usually dungeon creeps are way more cunning than these brainless low-tier fodder types. That last monster was just a pathetic warm-up. As a hardcore horror junkie, Ruai felt her adrenaline start to spike. He admitted some beasts are absolute nightmares. Handing her the card, he instructed her to focus her intent on activating its power. It was her ticket to unlocking player stats. Ruai felt skeptical. How could a regular apartment building host such supernatural horrors? The card vanished and boom, stamina, level 1 unlocked. He gave her a nod, impressed by her natural talent for the system. They pushed deeper into the shadows. With her new stats, the biting supernatural chill in the air finally began to fade. Curious, she asked how he became such a walking encyclopedia. Was he just a hardcore gamer? The question made him freeze instantly. His face went cold as stone. Panicked, she sensed her mistake. There's nothing fun about this nightmare, he whispered darkly. Their mission wasn't to play, it was to tear this system apart. Despite the mystery, Ruei chose to put her faith in him. Without warning, a beast lunged from the masonry. He caught it midair, snapping its neck with a single, effortless squeeze. No loot. Talk about bad RNG. That is the real grind of this dungeon. Good drops are never guaranteed for low-level trash mobs. Random drops are a pain, but floor bosses are a guaranteed payday. He set his sights on the big game to gear up. Elsewhere, other players were spiraling in the labyrinthine halls. This massive apartment complex had become a tomb they couldn't escape. Ruei realized she was miles ahead of the other survivors. His uncanny sense of direction was nothing short of legendary. As they trekked, he explained that this extreme cold floor was actually just getting started. The real danger was still brewing. The mercury dips 1 degree every 5 minutes. They started at a brisk 6 degrees, but the clock is ticking fast. They had a 30-minute window before things went sub-zero. After that, the temperature would plummet into a bottomless icy abyss. Eventually, even high stats won't save you from the frost. Kill the floor boss fast or become a permanent ice sculpture. Ruei's jaw dropped. He added that the environmental hazards only get more extreme as you move away from the middle floors. His memory was flawless, pinpointing every boss location. Mao trailed behind, realizing every step he took was a calculated tactical maneuver. Even with his knowledge, the system was being stingy with clues. Locating the floor's exit remained a total mystery for now. He suspected that the author of those legendary dungeon guides must possess some kind of broken god-tier tracking ability. He prayed the world's top-ranked player lived up to the hype. Somewhere in this twisted maze, the first floor boss awaited. These bosses loved to play hide-and-seek. They needed a distraction, but an unexpected face emerged and called out Shi's name. Some random thug stepped up, demanding to know if he was the famous Luo Shi. Shi just stared back with zero recognition. They brushed past him like he was invisible, sending the guy into a rage. "Don't ignore me, I'm a ranked player too." Mao asked about his standing, but Shi's response was savage. He only bothers remembering the names of the top 10 elite. The red-haired punk lost it. He screamed at Shi to drop the main character attitude and show some respect. He flexed his rank 783. He claimed this dungeon would be his stepping stone to the #1 spot. He introduced himself as Zhong Qi, alias Qi Xiao. Unfortunately for him, Shi and Ruei couldn't care less about his titles. Mao didn't even blink. "What does number 783 want?" she yawned. Being treated like a statistic triggered him hard. He barked at them to use his name. He was there for one reason: to crush Shi and seize the crown. He wanted to prove Shi's rank was a fluke. Shi's response, a lightning-fast backhand that sent the trash talker eating the floor. Shi told 783 to go sit in the corner. Enraged, Qi Xiao unsheathed his blade and ordered his crew to gear up. They were eyeing Shi's inventory. Qi Xiao vowed to return the slap 100-fold, but Shi saw right through their hollow bravado. Since they weren't villains, just idiots, he decided on a quick lesson. He kicked in a nearby door and grabbed a random stick. A wooden rod was all he needed for these scrubs. Besides, a loud commotion was exactly what he needed to lure the boss. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, he decided to test his unique class skill. He cast Resonance of Tools on the humble wood. Skill active. The system flagged the stick as an E-rank trash item, but it boasted a staggering 99.9 resonance. Grinding with this weapon would only boost its power. Suddenly, a strength buff surged through him. He finally understood his true potential. This skill was an automatic appraiser. If he found high-tier unidentified loot later, he'd be the ultimate treasure hunter in this dungeon. Seeing the stick, Qi Xiao scoffed at his arrogance. He warned Shi that underestimating them without his real sword would be his downfall. Shi's cold gaze pierced right through them. Qi Xiao rallied his squad to charge, but his brothers were paralyzed by pure terror. This cowardice drove Qi Xiao insane. He screamed at his useless lackeys, physically shoving them into the path of Shi's stick. Knowing Shi was the world's top-ranked player, the lackeys began doubting their leader's sanity. But Qi Xiao's ego snapped. Feeling humiliated, he lunged at Shi with reckless, unbridled rage. Ignoring the massive power gap, he dismissed Shi's title as a fluke and vowed to crush him. Needing to make a statement, Shi delivered a brutal, stinging slap that echoed through the room. Shi called his move brainless. Doubled over, Qi Xiao wailed in agony as tears blurred his vision. That shriek was perfect bait. Suddenly, a massive vine erupted and coiled tightly around Qi Xiao. It silenced his cries and dragged him into the abyss. His horrified crew scrambled to give chase. That's the floor boss, she explained. Slaying it was their only ticket to the next level. He signaled Rui to follow, moving with a supernatural speed that left her completely breathless. The power of player attributes was real. She wondered what she'd become with enough stat points. A real-life superhero, her cinematic dreams were coming true, while Mao watched silently from the shadows. He was genuinely impressed. Xi's goal was clear: he was here to hunt the floor boss. Mao realized that fighting alongside Xi was their best shot at surviving this brutal dungeon. Their odds would skyrocket. He'd pay any price to join Xi's squad. Nearby, Qi Xiao's men roared. Demanding their leader's release, they screamed threats until one brave soul finally charged at the beast. They were swatted away like flies. Meet the level 8 E+ floor boss, a lethal man-eating flower. Boasting insane strength and agility, the creature bared its serrated teeth. Qi Xiao stared into death's maw. Praying for a miracle, he spotted Xi. Relief washed over him. The world's strongest had arrived. Would Xi actually help a jerk like him? Without a word, Xi blitzed toward the monster. His blade flashed, drawing a pained screech from the beast. Qi Xiao breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Yet the shame felt deadlier than the monster. Don't just rot there, Xi barked at him. Earn your rank, Xi challenged. Reach the top 10 and I'll give you a real fight. Shocked, Qi Xiao vowed to climb the ladder, echoing the destiny Xi remembered from his past life. With the boss dead, the exit appeared, but it led to a dangerous fork in the road. Ascend toward mutated beasts or descend into a ghost-infested hell. Rui finally arrived at his side. A 4-minute timer appeared. Xi turned to Rui, letting her pick their next nightmare. Qi Xiao feared for her, but Rui's heart was actually pounding with pure, unadulterated excitement. Monsters or ghosts. She was hyped, though she masked her thrill to avoid looking like a psycho. She pressed for an answer, but she was torn. Honestly, she wanted to conquer both paths. A newcomer stepped forward. Lu Mao, rank 34. He offered his elite skills to the group. Finally, a heavy hitter. In a world of hundreds of thousands, rank 34 was top tier. Qi Xiao scoffed. To him, rank 34 was mid. He was aiming for the absolute top. She knew Mao had been tailing them. It was time to call him out. See, in the previous timeline, Mao was his savior. You knew I was there, Mao asked, recalling when she was once betrayed. Death was certain, until Mao intervened instantly, recognizing Xi's raw, untapped potential. Join us, Mao had said. Follow my lead and we'll crawl out of this dungeon alive. Step by agonizing step, Mao's leadership guided them to a hard-won victory on that floor. Back then, Mao was his hero, his light in the dark. But things were different now. Even Mao perished during the Great Confinement. It proved that regardless of strength, everyone is a toy. We're all playthings for the evil gods. Mao shifted nervously under Xi's silent, heavy gaze. Is there an issue? Mao asked. Qi Xiao figured Xi would reject the stranger instantly. Surprisingly, Xi accepted. He needed elite allies. Mao bowed, offering a gift as a sign of respect. Keep it, Xi said. Mao had already saved him once, now it was Xi's turn to repay that debt. Mao realized Xi was already a god, but the girl, she desperately needed those attribute cards. Rui's eyes sparkled at the prospect of gaining power, yet she still waited for Xi's approval. Giving her the power to choose sparked instant joy. Knowing those cards were the key to her evolution, she claimed them with a sudden grin. Mao breathed a massive sigh of relief. This chance encounter was a gamble. If they had walked away, his trust would have vanished. Earning his loyalty wasn't easy. He vowed to repay this debt once they escaped this digital hell and returned to the real world. Next level now, she commanded. The upcoming floor boss was a different beast entirely. They could not afford a single second of hesitation. Mao and Rui fell in line. Meanwhile, Qi Xiao's blood boiled. There was no way he would let that four-eyed geek outshine him. Pure arrogance fueled his confidence. Convinced he was a top-tier asset, he swaggered over to pitch his generous offer to join the squad. The rejection was brutal and instant. Get lost, she snapped, cutting him off before he could even finish his pathetic sales pitch. Mao questioned her intel. She revealed the dungeon's stark reality, a 7-story structure, and they were currently stranded on floor 4. This vertical labyrinth consisted of 7 levels. To reach the ends, they would have to fight through 3 grueling stages in either direction. Seeking a strategy, Mao probed for the final boss's weakness. Her answer was, chilling players could not actually kill the twin terrors here. The only path to victory was pure chaos. To clear the dungeon, they had to force both final bosses into a fatal collision. Mao's jaw dropped. That meant splitting the party, a dangerous gamble of racing up and down simultaneously to trigger the final endgame. Her strategy was bold: dive into the depths first. The goal was to aggro the bottom floor boss and turn it into a stalker. They would lure the beast upward in a desperate charge. If the plan worked, the monster would hunt them to the very summit. By forcing the bosses into a death match, their own risk plummeted. Mao marveled at her tactical brilliance. It was exactly as expected. Ordinary players would find this suicide. Re-clearing floor bosses while being hunted was a feat only a legend or madman would attempt. Rui's heart raced as the truth surfaced. She had initially intended to solo 2 floor bosses before kiting the final boss alone. She did not deny it, but her gaze softened. While the mission was vital, Rui's life weighed far more heavily on her conscience. Throwing Rui into the meat grinder was not an option. Instead, she pivoted to a safer route, refusing to gamble with her friend's life. Warmth filled Rui's heart, but a sudden sneeze shattered the moment. Even with boosted stats, the biting chill was piercing her bones. The environment was turning hostile. Temperature on the second floor was plummeting twice as fast as the levels above, turning air into ice. With the mercury dropping below zero, time was their greatest enemy. They had to hunt down the floor boss before they literally froze. They finally breached a chamber guarded by a predatory wolf beast. Surrounding the Alpha was a ghastly horde of restless, snarling zombies. Mao was stunned by her precision. Navigating this sprawling maze seemed impossible, yet she moved like she truly owned the place. "I carved this path through blood and trauma," she whispered. Mao's suspicion deepened. How could she know these corridors so intimately? It defied logic since the game was brand new. Suddenly, the air grew heavy as a D-rank nightmare emerged from the shadows. Meet the Dog King Arus. It was level 10 with terrifying physical prowess and speed that blurred reality as it charged in. "Brace yourselves, cold spirits are coming," she warned. Mao stepped up instantly, vowing that not a single ghost would touch Rui. Trusting Mao's strength to shield Rui, she locked onto the beast. With a roar, she lunged forward, pouring everything into her assault. Disaster struck as her blade jammed between the beast's fangs. Seeing the opening, a swarm of vengeful spirits shrieked toward them. Mao did not flinch. As the 9th successor of the Bagua Hands, he unleashed a flurry of strikes that sent the monsters flying. The tutorial dungeon had been a cakewalk for him. These low-level spirits were nothing more than annoying gnats compared to his lineage. "Stay back, I have got this," he shouted. But his jaw dropped when Rui stepped up, throwing heavy haymakers into the crowd. Rui was electric. These new player attributes were a game-changer, granting her the raw power to actually fight back and survive. She was full of wild cards, just like her leader. Suddenly, Arus let out a deafening howl, sweeping its razor-sharp claws at Mao. Seeing an opening, she danced through the fray, landing cuts. Strangely, she seemed to be intentionally avoiding the beast's lethal pressure points. Mao was baffled. Why toy with it? They needed this kill to unlock the path down before the freezing cold claimed them. The air was turning into a frozen tomb. As she evaded another strike, Mao grew desperate to understand her mysterious endgame. A direct kill was a trap. Ending Arus now would only send the basement boss into an unstoppable, bloodthirsty berserk state. The real prize lay in restraint. To trigger the hidden legendary storyline, they had to defeat the beast without actually taking its life. Precision was everything, 1% health, no more. Suddenly, Arus channeled its D-rank ultimate move, the devastating roar of the wind. Destructive energy spiraled around the beast. It was prepping a sonic blast powerful enough to shred their physical forms into digital dust. "Take cover now," Mao screamed, sensing the impending explosion. Yet, in its ultimate state, the boss left itself completely exposed to attack. As shockwaves collided with her barrier, sparks of light blinded the room. "Don't sweat me," she yelled through the deafening roar. "Just keep Rui safe." Mao's heart hammered against his ribs as he watched her face the monster's final strike head-on. Even with his life on the line, he couldn't help but wonder what her endgame was, yet he chose to believe in him. Loyalty was everything. Once he chose a master, there was no turning back. He sprinted toward Rui, ushering her into a safe corner. King Arus channeled his fury into a single point, manifesting a lethal, spiraling energy orb that suddenly detonated outward. The destruction was escalating fast, and it was right on top of them. Rui felt relieved to escape until she realized he was still inside. Panic flared as she turned to dive back in, but Mao held her firm. "Stay put," he commanded. "Just trust him." "Can he really handle that monster alone?" she whispered. Suddenly, an eerie silence fell. Even the howling wind had completely vanished. She urged them to go check, but Mao stood his ground. Without a signal, they had to wait no matter how high the tension grew. Right on cue, his command rang out. Hearing his voice sent a wave of relief through Rui as they dashed toward his location. The scene before them was unreal. Eris was hanging by a thread with only 1% HP left. Rui was absolutely speechless. It was like a scene straight out of a blockbuster movie. Mao felt foolish for ever doubting such legendary superhero strength. She was now just waiting for the hidden quest to trigger. Mao finally grasped that her mercy was actually a calculated move. Every move was a chess play for that secret objective. Meanwhile, Rui was totally geeking out over the hidden mission's discovery. He offered Eris a deal, follow him, and he'd lead the beast back to its master. Stunned, the creature let out a pitiful howl. A system notification flashed. Eris was actually requesting to join the party. He clicked accept, and the boss was officially an ally. With both Eris and Little Posey in the squad, the legendary hidden side mission finally roared to life. The team scored a massive buff, boosting final rewards by 50%. Plus, the system confirmed boss Eris has been defeated. He snagged a D-rank attribute card, adding 2 points to both stamina and strength once he hits level 15. He also unlocked Storage King, an upgradable card with a 5 cubic meter capacity for his growing inventory. No living souls allowed though. Still, those D-rank attribute cards were exactly what he needed to power up his stats. Currently, his strength sat at level 11, while his agility, stamina, and mana were all hovering at level 10. They scored Mental Guardian, a permanent buff granting them total immunity against any psychological or mind-altering attacks. He activated the cards, boosting strength to 13 and stamina to 12. As for the storage item, he knew its true value. That extra space would be a lifesaver. Suddenly, a tiny yapping sound broke the silence. There stood a literal tiny husky puppy. "Is this seriously your true form?" he asked. Rui was already head over heels petting the fluff ball she couldn't believe was a boss. "If you don't believe it, I'll have him change back," he teased. Rui froze instantly, her hand hovering over the puppy in terror. The memory of that colossal beast made her go pale. Thankfully, he was just messing with her. This was its permanent form. She wondered if every nightmare boss here started as something adorable. Even Mao hadn't picked up on that unsettling detail. If that's the case, the dungeon creator has a twisted mind. She nodded grimly. They were spot on. He warned that the deeper they ventured, the darker the game's secrets would become. Finally, Rui understood his grim mission. This wasn't about winning. It was about burning the system down. As a new path opened, a soft, mysterious sound echoed ahead. A tiny meow floated through the air. A cat down here. But Eris wasn't fooled. He started snarling aggressively at the shadows. That was no pet, it was the next floor boss. "Move out," he commanded, his eyes narrowing as the atmosphere shifted. Whatever was waiting was dying to reunite with its old friend. "Welcome to the extreme cold apartment, floor B2. Current temp -10 Celsius. But here's the catch. The mercury drops by 2 degrees every single minute. Level 9. Cold spirits ranging from E to D rank prowled the halls. Before Mao and Rui could plan the monsters locked on, Rui noticed the mob density had spiked significantly. Her theory was holding up, things were getting much more dangerous. As they neared the ultimate boss, the horde would grow larger, fiercer, and more relentless. This was just the beginning. With plummeting temperatures and a never-ending swarm of lethal spirits, this dungeon's difficulty was spiraling out of control. This was way beyond your typical E-rank novice run. Suddenly, the spirits shrieked and charged at them in a murderous frenzy. Rui remained eerily calm, while Mao made the first move, blurring forward to drive back the first wave of attackers. "Save your energy for the boss," Mao said. Even at level 8, his strength stat was already a monstrous 11. He backed it up with 9, agility, and an exclusive buff that separated him from every other player. Using family heirloom Bagua hands, his stats surged even higher. Rui watched, eager to see players reach this insane power level. Mao was on a different level. He accelerated instantly, his speed so intense he left flickering after images in his wake. With a sweeping arc of his hands, the sheer wind pressure alone sent the monsters flying like ragdolls. Blue arcs of energy crackle, obliterating everything in his path. He barks at Rui and Shi to stay close. Rui knew he was a beast, but witnessing this raw power left her breathless. This path was light work for Mao. He asks about the floor boss's location, but the awkward moment shatters as a fresh wave of monsters lunges. Rui shrieks a warning. He's caught off guard, trapped in a lethal range with zero time to evade the strike. "Get down," a familiar voice commands. Recognizing Shi instantly, he drops low to the floor without a second thought. A single devastating sword swing obliterates the threats behind him. In an instant, the monsters are reduced to scrap. Rui mutters that this sight never gets old. Mao finally realizes that Shi's strength is on a whole different level. Shi signals the advance. The boss's lair is already within his sights. He kicks the door open, sending 2 monsters flying. Before them stands the floor boss, the Cat King Little Pazzi. Level 11 with full health. Stats check strength 12, physique 10, and a lethal level 16 in agility. Its D-rank skill, Agility Hunter, boosts its speed by 3 more levels. The beast lets out a deafening meow. Rui's eyes sparkle at the massive feline, calling it adorable. Mao, however, can't believe her lack of survival instinct. Massive and deadly, yet she calls it cute. He recalls the intel this boss possesses, insane god-tier agility. With that speed buff, even he can't keep up. They need a smarter tactic to take this monster down. He grabs Eris, pitting the pup against its old ally. That bark is about to land a massive debuff. It's a hidden game mechanic. He orders the others to clear the mobs while he handles the big cat. The duo nods. Rui isn't scared, but her lack of actual battle experience is her biggest weakness right now. Mao charges through the horde. As monsters swarm, he cuts them down, warning them not to cross his path. He loads his legs for a massive leap, startling Eris. This aggressive move sends the Cat King into a rage. The boss lunges and he must act now. He launches Eris forward, commanding the pup to unleash a bark. Eris obeys perfectly. The Cat King freezes, completely shaken by the sound. Little Posy recognizes its old comrade. Its will to fight instantly plummets by 30%. Speed and power tank by 20%. Seizing the opening, he delivers a devastating bone-crushing strike. The boss's health hits 1%. Fight over. He asks if it's ready to reunite with its true master. Little Posy hesitates, but another bark from Eris melts its aggression. Suddenly, a system notification pings his vision. A recruitment request pops up. He accepts, officially bringing the floor boss onto the squad. With the second floor boss recruited, he claims his rewards D-rank cards for 2 agility and 2 strength. These work for stats under level 15. He also scores a D-rank incomplete upgrade core. It upgrades low-rank gear's specific abilities. Finally, he can evolve the blue vein sword. He pops the cards. Strength hits 15, while agility and stamina climb to level 12. Mana stays at 10, but Little Posy joining triggers a massive hidden mission. The team earns the past intimacy buff, granting 20% boosts to defense, strength, and agility. There is a 50% chance to unlock boss memories, plus a massive 50% bonus to final rewards. Rui beams at the buffs. That bonus loot is huge. Suddenly, the path to the next floor manifests. She signals the charge toward the bottom floor's final boss. This is their first true test. Normal attacks won't kill this thing. Rui shivers as the apartment transforms into a literal ice cave. Without thermal gear, anyone would freeze instantly. Currently, the blue vein sword only packs one single skill. He wonders about the evolution. D-rank upgrades usually just buff damage, but every bit counts in this frozen hell. He activates the card. Radiance engulfs the blade as the sword's new status screen flickers into life. Skill 1, Sky-Splitting Slash. Each strike fuels the blade with a lethal surge of crimson blood energy. When the nodes glow crimson, it unleashes a devastating wave of sword chi that tears through everything. Damage scales with his strength. Every 10 levels, the blade grants him a powerful randomized new skill. Soul Imprint Tech binds the blade to him forever. Then he recalls a detail from hitting level 10. A second skill slot had already opened up. The upgrade core integrates perfectly, completing the process. The blue vein sword evolves. Sky-Splitting Slash hits stage 2, ready to unleash chaotic blood energy. Unleashing sword chi. It deals massive damage, plus activating it boosts his raw strength by 2 whole levels. With one final draw remaining, he decided to gamble on his luck and check the last skill. The system initiated the exclusive draw, manifesting a vibrant array of illusory cards right before his eyes. The color-coded ranks ranged from gray E rank all the way up to legendary red S rank abilities. He summoned the second hidden power of the blue vein sword, praying for a high-tier pull. He locked in the purple card, securing the B+ rank skill Surging Wind for his new blade. His agility skyrocketed by 5 levels. This massive speed buff was exactly what he needed to dominate. Deeper and more level, 12 cold spirits emerged, swarming the bottom floor in even greater numbers. Rui was itching for combat. Both Mao and Rui knew her hidden power could vaporize these mobs instantly. Honestly, at her level, the others felt like they were just there to make up the numbers. He left the fodder to them for some easy experience, advising them to pop any attribute cards immediately. Then he charged toward the boss alone. Rui worried, but Mao knew the boss was his target. His mission was simple: bait the boss out, while the others farmed spirits to boost their stats. They agreed to the plan, but as he departed, Rui briefly looked lost in her own thoughts. Suddenly, a monster lunged Rui, snapped back, obliterating it with one punch as her battle spirit ignited. She taunted the horde, her fists honed by a decade of brutal training. Her stats were looking lethal. Now level 6, she felt the surge of power she had cultivated solely to keep Qing safe. She sent 2 monsters flying with a single strike. Mao watched, completely stunned by her raw violence. He realized her cute exterior was a total lie. She only unleashed her inner beast when off camera. A monster tried to sneak him, but he erased its upper half instantly. Time to get dead serious. Among a mountain of bones stood the D-rank final boss, the level 15 Extreme Cold Yin woman. She was a tank with level 18 stamina and 16 mana, radiating a deadly freezing pressure. Her D+ skill, Extreme Cold Ice Spike, could fire 6 lethal projectiles at once to impale foes. With hollow, haunting eyes and flowing tresses, she drifted forward like a nightmare from the abyss. Her massive horned silhouette loomed over the battlefield, casting a terrifying shadow across the frozen floor. The air turned brittle as she giggled at the approaching humans, sensing fresh prey entering her domain. He knew a secret making her companions cry had a 50% chance to trigger her lost human memories. It was a one-shot gamble. This monster loved the taste of human blood, and she wanted his. He forced the companions to wail, causing her to hesitate, but the memory trigger unfortunately failed. She laughed, swinging a heavy fist. He told the shaken companions it was not their fault, it failed. He had not banked on it anyway. Now she was hunting him, ravenous for a taste of his soul. He played tag with the boss, stalling so the others could level up using his new speed buff. Evading her lethal strikes was a breeze. Soon his teammates finished clearing every last spirit in sight. Mao hit level 11, boasting impressive strength and agility stats that made him a formidable ally. His family heirloom buff, Bagua Hands, pushed his combat stats 2 levels higher than his base. Rui marveled at her new level 9 strength. Farming those monsters had turned her into a tank. Suddenly, a thunderous, rhythmic smashing sound echoed through the halls, growing louder by the second. It sounded like a titan's hammer pulverizing the ground, and it was heading right for them. Rui wondered if the boss was near, quickly fixing her hair to look perfect for his return. Mao shook his head. Her girl in love act was a complete 180 from her Slayer persona. He finally sprinted into view, but the massive, horrifying boss was right on his heels, shocking everyone. "Fall back," he yelled. They needed to retreat toward the upper floors to survive this nightmare. The final boss conjured her deadly ice spikes as the three of them bolted for safety. Mao offered to take the aggro, but he refused. The boss had already locked her sights on him. She would not stop until he was dead. The Yin woman launched a lethal ice spike to claim her prize. She slipped past the attack effortlessly. Mao remarked that only her icy composure could handle being stalked by such a nightmare. Rui nodded, noting her chilling habit of dropping terrifying facts without blinking. Suddenly, a pack of monsters barred their way. Until the final boss falls, these dungeon mobs will just keep respawning. Thankfully, Mao and Rui made quick work of them. They sliced through the horde with zero effort. She realized they had leveled up massively since Basement 1, while others struggled. A heavy blow landed. It was Qi Xiao. As his fanboys cheered his name, the earth suddenly erupted into a violent tremor. They spotted her squad sprinting straight for them. Qi Xiao locked eyes with her, leaving his confused lackey scratching his head. Why retreat when the boss is downstairs? But then the horrifying truth came into focus right before their eyes. The frost-cold Yin woman was hunting them, her health bar still completely full. That was not an earthquake, it was her. It was her. Mao screamed for them to clear out, but the arrogant Qi Xiao just scoffed at the monster's power. He stood his ground, refusing to budge. She zoomed past him just as the beast crushed him underfoot, never breaking pursuit. His squad begged him to wake up, but he was a shell of a man looking like his soul had vanished. She noted that once the boss marks a target, it ignores everyone else. Even if they stayed still, they were safe. Safety was guaranteed for now. Mao realized he had overanalyzed the situation as they sprinted through the middle-tier floors. Climbing higher meant facing those mutated apartment freaks. Rui wondered if these upcoming bosses followed secret rules like Little Pazzi. Rui brought up Little Pazzi, but she shook her head. These upper floors were a completely different ballgame. These bosses were personifications of the father's deepest hatred. Yes, the top floor boss is actually the bottom floor boss's dad. If father and daughter reunite, the stage is cleared. But in life, both of these tragic entities were just ordinary people. Their past was heartbreaking. On the very day he became a father, his world shattered as his wife passed away. A useless quack doctor botched the treatment, leaving the newborn girl to grow up in a world without her mother. With her father constantly working, stray pets became her only friends. Despite the loneliness, she blossomed into a healthy girl. Tragedy struck while she waited for him. A brutal car accident took her life right before her father's devastated eyes. The sick developers then trapped their souls in this tower forever. Only those who find the true path can end it. They can finally reunite even briefly to wash away their eternal resentment. That is why bringing them together is the key. Facilitating their meeting is the ultimate key. Rui felt a wave of pity, realizing the sheer misery behind this boss. Mao cursed the game's creator for being a total monster. Meanwhile, other players were getting absolutely wrecked by a massive beast. Meet the D-rank boss, the level 10 Quack Doctor Chainsaw Maniac. His raw strength stat was a terrifying level 12. With level 9 stamina and level 10 agility, this fraudulent medic had already claimed the lives of countless innocent patients. Mao recognized the Quack Doctor instantly. Rui joked that no sane physician would ever carry a blood-stained chainsaw. "Get down," she commanded. Seeing a perfect opening, she lunged forward, her blade biting deep into the Quack Doctor. The Chainsaw Maniac fell. Without wasting a single second, the team sprinted toward the stairs, leaving the corpse behind. Bystanders stood frozen in awe, wondering who these legends were. Meanwhile, the original monster continued its relentless pursuit of her. Panic erupted as the beast reappeared. No one understood why it was here. They braced for impact, certain that death arrived. They prepared for the end, but the creature simply ignored them and charged past. It let out a roar of fury. "Don't you dare run," it screamed. It dawned on the players that someone had actually lured this nightmare up there. They had already conquered the floor below. Witnessing that power firsthand was insane. But next up was another D-rank powerhouse. The level 11 modified truck driver appeared, boasting level 17 strength. Its specialized D-rank skill, Illegal Modification, was deadly. That skill pushed his power to the limit. This greed-driven monster would do any illegal upgrade just to line his pockets. While Mao and Rui were shaking, she did not flinch. He dove into the fray as the truck driver launched a punch. Soaring into the air, he delivered a vertical strike that split the Titan's body in two. The beast was silenced instantly. As the debris settled, they pressed on toward the exit, but something dark was slithering out from beneath the broken concrete. A twisted entity began to take shape. The evil god had finally fixed its gaze on them. They were clearing too fast. They were anomalies, shattering the god's divine design. Waiting at the peak was a level 10, mutated freak, hungry for blood. It was not alone. A sea of monsters stood guard. Suddenly, every single one of them snapped their heads toward them. The echoes of battle reached them. She urged the duo to sprint as the final door to the ultimate boss stood ahead. The beast unleashed a bone-chilling roar. "Keep moving," she shouted. "Leave everything else to me. Just get to that door." One horizontal sweep cleaved through a mob of beasts. Without pausing, the duo stormed forward and forced the heavy doors open. The ultimate threat awaited. Entering the apex floor, they stood before the true King of Frost, the extreme cold ringleader. Its stats flashed level 15 overall, strength 16, stamina 19, agility 15, but its mana was a measly level 1. It wielded a D-rank skill, extreme cold breath spewing sub-zero winds. Mao hissed that it didn't look like the tragic man he'd imagined. Bam! The entrance thundered shut. A system notification blared that the exit was sealed shut indefinitely. Not until external conditions were met. Confusion flashed through them as the beast unleashed a bone-chilling roar. Rui grasped the grim reality they had to hold out alone. Mao tightened his grip, knowing this was a life-or-death struggle. A quest window popped up. Eradicate every mutated freak on this level within 5 minutes or else. The boss room remained a tomb. This high-level mechanic shouldn't be here. It was only supposed to appear in late-game zones. An eerie sensation crawled up his spine. Something was watching a presence absent from his previous life. Could the evil gods be spectating? Tracking his every move post-rebirth, the day of confinement, was warping, deviating from the timeline he remembered. Caution was key, but speed was vital. Every monster had to die, and they had to die now. 5 minutes was plenty for dealing with such bottom-tier trash. He blurred into motion, each step surgical, every slash a masterpiece of precision. Monsters collapsed in heaps with every swing. Even the mindless beasts began to cower, and Rui watched them retreat in sheer terror. Their AI was evolving. Suddenly a massive hand lunged from the shadows, but he parried the strike with cold steel. The extreme cold yin woman had appeared. She was the true source of this nightmare's difficulty. She stood as his executioner. Her eyes burned with a primal hunger for fresh blood. He predicted her opening. Jagged ice crystals erupted from the floor, nearly impaling him where he stood. Yet no blood spilled. He'd already flickered behind her, chanting the sky-splitting slash. Stage 2 energy flooded his sword, and the resulting arc of light sliced her perfectly in two. A twisted smile played on her lips as she landed gracefully. He realized then that killing her was currently impossible. Neutralizing her was sufficient for now. His priority shifted to purging the remaining mobs and unsealing the exit. 4 minutes, 15 seconds remained. The juggernaut Rui and Mao battled was an immortal nightmare. Its power eclipsed even the yin woman's. He prayed they'd survive until his arrival. Meanwhile, behind the heavy doors, the ringleader threw a devastating punch. The shockwave sent Mao flying, crashing into the door as he spat out blood. Its speed was a blur. He couldn't fathom that Rui had been squaring off against this monster all alone. He'd underestimated the gap. Now, the brutal reality of the difference between rank 1 and rank 34 hit him. It wasn't a gap. It was a goddamn canyon. Rui leaped in, parrying a fatal blow to shield him. "Get up," she barked. They'd sworn to survive until backup arrived. But a split-second lapse was all the beast needed to seize her. Mao intervened, unleashing Bagua Han's third form. His strike connected squarely with the beast's jaw, flooring the giant. Rui watched in disbelief. Mao's knuckles whitened as he refused to yield regardless of the power chasm between them. He triggered Bagua Han's enraged state. Instantly, his strength stats surged to level 4. Mana spiked to level 10. In this transcendent mode, he could manifest Bagua True Chi for devastating long-range strikes. The creature lurched up for another round. "Don't count me out yet," Mao roared, driving it back with a heavy blow. A barrage of palm strikes followed, eventually slamming the beast into the dirt. His father's secret technique was actually working. He recalled his father's words. Bagua Hands wasn't limited to mere brawling. It was something far more profound. Master its essence, and you can crush foes from afar with pure palm force. Unfortunately, total mastery still eluded him. He was incomplete. The timer for his enraged state ticked down 2 minutes and 13 seconds left. 3 minutes was his absolute limit in this form. The boss rose once more, charging with relentless fury. He stared in horror as its wounds knit shut. This boss was unkillable. If he couldn't break it, he had to stop it. Containment was the only way. He blasted another shockwave from his palms, forcing a pained groan from the monster. Shockingly, it didn't budge. It had already adapted to his rhythm. Before he could react, a massive hand crushed his skull. Disaster struck. He'd underestimated its insane speed. Now, only one path remained, a desperate fight to the bitter end. He threw a final soul-straining palm strike, but the beast was a wall. His stamina tank hit 0. The enraged state flickered out. His body was broken, pushed far beyond its physical limits. The end was near. The beast's claws descended, spelling certain death. Mao braced for the end. Suddenly, a deafening shot echoed. Lead pierced the monster's hide, dropping it instantly. Rui stood there, smoke rising from her barrel. That piece was meant for she, but Mao's life came first. She would definitely understand. A six-shot beast of a revolver. It drained stamina, but featured a god-tier auto-reload mechanic. Rank E with a precision buff, tripling power and spiking accuracy. Mao couldn't believe his eyes. Was it a hidden drop? Rui had played it close. Suddenly, the beast lunged straight for her. She pulled the trigger again, stalling for Shi's arrival. The creature braced, tanking the hits. "Don't tank it," Mao yelled. This boss was a nightmare that adapted to every strike. Basically, it was immortal. Panic surged through Rui just as the monster's grip tightened around her. She unloaded the cylinder point blank, but the beast shrugged it off, slamming her into the concrete. Mao scrambled over. The power gap was insane. Then the monster unhinged its massive jaws. A lethal frost began to gather. They were cornered. In that moment, Rui felt pure regret. "Any last words?" Mao whispered. She only wished she died beside Shi. Then the door exploded. Frost detonated everywhere, but then time stopped. Shi was there, his entrance shifting the entire vibe. Rui's heart soared. He was alive. She knew he'd arrived just a fraction of a second from disaster. "It's over," she declared. The conditions were met, though the Yin woman still hungered for blood. The monsters froze in confusion. The system flashed. Hidden clearing condition reached a fated reunion. Two souls met against all odds. Recognition sparked, and the level's final cinematic sequence began. Their monstrous forms melted away. A child's voice cried, father answered by a parent's desperate sob. They embraced as the end arrived. Suddenly, a flood of their tragic past overwhelmed the players. As the stage faded, Rui realized her intuition was right. They were just a broken family. Mao fumed at the mastermind. But she felt a chill. Something about this felt way too staged. Was it going too smoothly? The sequence matched his memories perfectly, but the air felt heavy. A new mission flashed. An evil god whined that the show ended too fast for its liking. A terrifying presence manifested. Rui gasped. It was a high-tier boss-level triggered emergency mission. God's scout had arrived. Its sole mission: to reboot the tragedy and satisfy its cruel master. The scout babbled about God's grace. To these beings, humans were nothing but entertainment for their lord. Let the real show begin. Spectral chains lashed out, forcing the father and daughter back into monsters. Agony filled the air. Rui and Mao watched in horror as Arus and Little Posy rushed forward. Rui screamed to stop them, but the scout aimed its malice. It wanted more monsters for the collection. We couldn't let that happen. She blurred into motion, swatting the attack aside with cold precision. The scout locked onto the interference. She had seen this mysterious eye hovering in the shadows before. This thing was an anomaly. No level, no HP bar, not even a hostile tag until now. In his past life, this was uncharted territory. The scout decided to erase the glitch in its script. The cold yin pair charged. She tossed the kids toward Mao and Shuai, clearing his path. His hand gripped the hilt. In one fluid motion, a devastating arc of steel struck both monsters. Knowing they wouldn't stay down, he sliced their waists to paralyze them and buy some time. Their HP actually dropped. She stared in shock. Their health bars were finally vulnerable to his blade. Phase 2. The extreme cold battle. The objective shifted: decapitate the bosses and destroy their very souls. Only true death would grant them exit. Mao's head spun. What kind of twisted mercy was this? The scout confirmed the nightmare. They had to execute the monsters and erase their existence entirely. After all, they'd surrendered their souls to a dark god. The scout laughed, assuming this wouldn't bother them. It turned its cold gaze toward the anomaly. Shi's patience snapped. Rui spat curses at the scout, while Mao's blood boiled with rage. To the scout, their tragic lives were just props in a game, tools to be discarded. The god scout smirked, claiming their agony was mere entertainment for the deity lurking in the heavens. It hissed that a dull show was pure blasphemy against the divine. Rui pulled the trigger, screaming that she didn't give a damn about their god's sick, twisted games. The scout snatched the bullet mid-air with 2 fingers. Weak it mocked. Mao's jaw dropped in sheer disbelief. Catching lead barehanded impossible. Mao realized there was no level prompt. This thing was off the charts. Rui froze as the scout brushed off her attack like a fly. Suddenly, 2 beasts lunged at Mao. She leaped back, barely dodging the claws. Mao hesitated to draw his blade. Killing them now was unthinkable. Their innocent souls were trapped inside those boss forms. They didn't deserve this cruel, monstrous fate. They only wanted a sliver of peace. Then something hit the floor, sending a shockwave through Mao's heart. The ice boss was weeping. Mao heard their fractured souls pleading for the sweet release of death. He felt their agony. The daughter's voice echoed, begging to stop the nightmare they were forced to endure. "Kill us," they cried, even as their bodies attacked against their will. They were prisoners in their own flesh. Forced to slaughter others just to exist, they begged for mercy. Their desperate pleas filled the air. Watching the carnage, the scout laughed. Perfect, this is the tragic masterpiece God desires. It claimed God feasted on shattered hope and twisted beauty. Pure cruelty was the ultimate divine tribute. Rui vowed to save them. Mao blurred into motion, aiming for the real villain pulling the strings. He would crush this arrogant puppet first. The God Scout didn't see Mao coming until it was too late. "I am a messenger," it shrieked. Mao didn't care. He drew his sword and carved through the divine trash. God is next on the list. For now, Mao would cast this scout into the deepest pits of hell. The scout screamed for its master, as a massive blast consumed it. Fury burned in its dying eyes. How could a human kill a scout? It detonated. Rui sighed, but Mao felt a new terrifying chill. A new shadow loomed, enraged that its toy had been broken by such pathetic mortals. They froze. A terrifying figure emerged, one eye haunting hair and massive jagged horns piercing the dark. A nightmare loomed behind it, a demonic visage with burning red eyes and a row of razor-sharp teeth. Pure terror struck. "What is that?" Rui gasped. The crushing pressure made Mao's lungs seize up. "Will it fight?" the monster scoffed. "Bound by rules that forbade it from striking within this specific dungeon. Next time I'll take your head," it hissed. "You'll be the one dancing for God's amusement. Live long enough to be worth killing," it sneered before vanishing into the shadows like a ghost. Their legs gave out as the pressure lifted. Rui gasped for air, and Mao could only nod. That was pure evil. The timeline was shifting. The evil god's influence was spreading faster than ever before. Mao sensed it. That thing reeked of divine corruption. Could this be the apostle they had been hunting all along? The enemy was onto them. But Mao didn't flinch. No matter the odds, he had a mission to finish. He'd carve a path to the true ending, the death of every single god. The bosses finally went still. They looked at Mao with peaceful eyes, thanking him for his rage. "Please, set us free," they whispered. Mao nodded, his knuckles white on his hilt. He would make this final strike swift and painless. A single silver flash severed the link. Their souls drifted upward, finally unshackled from their suffering. "Rest well," Mao murmured. It was a bittersweet victory, the only mercy left in this cruel world. Pazi and auras dissolved into brilliant light, offering one final ghostly farewell before fading away forever. They watched the light vanish. The frost finally began to thaw. The hellish apartment dungeon was officially cleared. The walls crumbled as the reality collapsed. Victory bells rang, signaling the end of the nightmare. Survivors received a D-rank attribute card, a small prize for surviving such an absolute hellscape. Their loot was theirs to keep, but the biting cold remained, leaving the survivors shivering in the dirt. Fighting was impossible in this sub-zero hell. Suddenly, a thunderous roar shattered the icy silence. Qi Xiao's squad was in full retreat, a beast hot on their heels. "We're gonna freeze," they screamed. How could the world's top player thrive in a place where everyone else was just waiting to die? Qi Xiao lost his footing. His squad panicked. Death was breathing down his neck. His dreams of being number one vanished. Then a miracle. The D-rank dungeon was cleared. A final gust signaled victory. The players cheered as the frost's deadly grip shattered. Activation cards flickered to life. Everyone wondered who the hell cleared that dungeon. The leaderboard flashed. She dominated with 82.3%. Mao and Rui trailed behind. The rest were irrelevant. The rankings made sense, but the first place gap was terrifying. System notification. Everyone received a massive level 3 boost to all core attributes. Rui was hyped. Mao realized D-rank loot was on a whole different level. Rui's power surged. Level 15 strength and 13 agility. She was becoming a beast. Her 6-shooter came with precision. It spiked her accuracy and raw power significantly. Mao was a tank. Level 17 strength and level 14 agility. Total beast mode. Plus, his Bagua Hands heirloom granted an exclusive buff to his physical stats. That was just survival loot. Since Rui contributed 7% extra rewards awaited. She pulled Mage's Blessing and Elf's Grace. Her mana pool expanded instantly. She hit 350 world points. Yet the girl still complained about her haul. Mao scored a weapon card. The Grandmaster's Gloves. Damaged but pure E-rank fire. A leg practice card boosted his speed. His global points now matched Rui's exactly. He equipped it and learned Remnant Might. A chance to deal double damage in combat. This was a game changer. One lucky proc could end any high-level duel instantly. Rui pried into Shi's loot. He played it cool. Just some points and a fragment. He kept the truth hidden. It was an S-rank fragment. Pure god-tier power. His points skyrocketed to 4,115. He was in his own league. The others were baffled. How could such high contribution yield such trash rewards? She knew the truth. In this twisted game, S-ranks were the ultimate cheat codes. Only 15 existed in the world. They held the power to crush everything. To win freedom, one had to be the world's absolute best from day one. He'd paid his dues in blood before. Snagging a fragment this early was legendary. He just needed 4 pieces total. Then he'd hold the power of a god. The evil gods were cruel, but their game was strictly fair. Winners live, losers rot. That rule applied to everyone, even the gods themselves. For now he'd hide his ace. Every step brought him closer to killing those gods. The global ranks refreshed. She sat on the throne with 7,615 points. The chasing pack was miles behind. Han Sunhai was a very distant second. The names blurred. A sea of players fighting for scraps beneath Xi's shadow. Rui was just hyped to be on the board at all. She sat at rank 634. Mao noted the competition was getting cutthroat. He held 31st place. The gap between the top elites was razor thin. Xi warned them. Once everyone learns the rules, the real monsters will emerge. Mao asked why Xi helped his rivals. Xi's answer: he was saving the world. It wasn't about him. It was a war for the survival of the planet. He wanted soldiers for humanity, not just greedy players hunting for personal gain. The duo was speechless. Mao's narrow vision shattered as he pledged his loyalty. Rui felt the fire of purpose. She hoped to see them in the flesh. Back in reality, Xi opened his eyes. His mother was there. Qing was out. The game only pulled their consciousness. His mother was already making food. A legendary bonus was coming. Whether grinding inside or safely out, his legendary score remained untouchable. No one even came close. The system yielded, dropping a reward early. A sinister pitch-black card materialized. A class change, the ultimate game changer. The Shadow Mage Apprentice card. Activating it meant descending into the dark path of a Shadow Initiate. He would wield devastating dark orbs and massive stat boosts. The skill description was bone-chilling. Rare dark elementalists start as vessels for the abyss. In his past life, this class was absolute peak tier. One dark archmage once wiped a whole city off the map. Evil or not, that raw power was terrifying. Ultimately, classes are just tools. Once mastered, their destructive potential is undeniable, regardless of personal morality. A weapon for villains or a shield for heroes. You only get one shot, but he had no use for it. He needed a worthy successor. Just then, his mom arrived with steaming noodles. He smiled, grateful for the peace. Pushing the chaos aside, he savored this fleeting slice of normalcy. He told her the food was delicious, enjoying the quiet. A sudden, frantic pounding at the door shattered the mood. It was Rui, looking absolutely wrecked. She was spiraling. Her parents were comatose. He broke the news. They were prisoners of the day of confinement. She begged for a cure. He told her to breathe. Right now, there was no easy way out. Only one S-rank freedom card existed. Without it escaping, this twisted nightmare was technically impossible. Die in the game, and your soul is trapped forever. The body lives on, but it is a hollow shell. Without constant medical care, they would eventually waste away from starvation or complete organ failure. Tears streamed down her face. Was there truly no hope? He watched her, a heavy sigh, escaping. Decision made. He offered a grim solution: take the card, evolve, and tear through every dungeon in their path. She froze. To save them, she had to become a monster-slaying god and hunt the game's creators. Only then would the world wake up. Rui asked if she would truly get stronger. He confirmed it with a price. One slip in willpower and the darkness would consume her soul. The negative backlash was no joke. She would become a mindless puppet for evil gods, a weapon used to butcher her own kind. The horrific side effects left her shaking. He warned her gifts from these dark entities always come with poison. These class changes weren't just game mechanics. They were traps designed by malevolent beings to spread despair. Sure, you get god-tier power, but at the cost of your sanity. It was a high-stakes gamble. Each card held a sliver of an evil god's consciousness. To survive, you had to crush it mentally. Even a tiny fragment could shatter an average person's psyche. One failure meant instant possession. They would become zealots for the abyss. He was safe only because his heart was forged in past life hell. His only goal now, total annihilation of those gods. Meanwhile, Rui saw her only path forward. If she stayed weak, her parents were dead. The coma epidemic would claim everyone she loved. She accepted the burden. As she reached for the card, a hand suddenly clamped onto her wrist. It was his mom. She begged Rui to reconsider, knowing her parents would never want her risking her soul. Rui thanked her, but pointed out that he was already fighting on the front lines. She had to step up too. Their devotion to family was identical. His mother went silent, offering a prayer as Rui gripped the card. "If I lose it, end me," she whispered. With a heavy heart, the Dark Mage transformation ignited. She put her life in his hands. But he knew he could never pull that trigger. He remembered her sacrifice. In another timeline, she died for him. This time, no matter how dark she becomes, he is bringing her back. Inky black smoke swallowed her whole. Her screams echoed as the abyss began its violent infusion. His mother panicked, but he cut her off. "Get outside. Don't let anyone in. This is going to get ugly." The evil god's ego was already clawing at Rui's mind. He needed a psychic shield, but his arsenal was empty. Then it hit him. He wasn't alone. A being of pure spirit was lurking within his own soul. He summoned it. Gabriel answered instantly, its voice echoing from the very fabric of reality. He needed a gateway to her mind. Gabriel agreed, but with a catch, it could not interfere once he was inside. If he lost to the darkness invading her, his own spirit would be deleted inside. He did not flinch. He would win. Gabriel smiled at his absolute cold-blooded confidence. It gave him the green light but issued a cold ultimatum. Despite conquering previous trials, if he faltered here, he was utterly unworthy of their patronage. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from Shi's chest, tethering him directly to Ruwei. There was no way he would let an eldritch deity claim his ally. Closing his eyes, he surrendered to the void. He materialized within Ruwei's fractured psyche. Endless silhouettes prowled the darkness as he searched for her flickering soul. Suddenly, he spotted them two versions of Ruwei. One was a lethal sharpshooter, while the other fought with feral, bare-fisted brutality. Confusion swirled within her as a shadow hissed from the gloom. To claim its dark power, she had to survive. A relentless siege of shadow disciples awaited her. Victory meant acknowledgement, but the odds were quickly turning into a nightmare. Reinforcements swarmed until she was completely cornered, yet she refused to break, fueled by her parents' memory. The monsters roared. Pitch-black orbs of flame streaked toward her. Ruwei braced herself, knowing a single direct hit meant permanent game over. The sharpshooter screamed for the brawler to create a gap. However, the sheer volume of monsters made it nearly impossible. Out of nowhere, a familiar voice shattered the chaos. She roared, carving a path through the demonic horde. Both versions of Ruwei froze in shock. She explained these shadow mages were merely phantoms of the class change trial. He couldn't damage the trial, illusions himself, but he could certainly crush the evil god's lingering presence. She swung his blade. Rage surged through him. How dare these pathetic remnants attempt to violate his comrade right before his eyes? Every strike was laced with pure, unbridled fury. Ruwei stared in disbelief, wondering how he'd even breached her mental barrier. His overwhelming strength left her speechless. These monsters were nothing more than fodder for him. She decided to trust him. She locked her sights on the three mages, manifesting a massive sphere. They unleashed the dark orb, paralyzing Ruwei with fear. At the last second Ruwei shoved the other aside. The orb struck, revealing its terrifying, soul-devouring properties. This class wasn't just powerful, it was legendary. Shaking off the dread, she scrambled back to find her footing. But then, a literal rain of darkness descended. One Ruwei covered the other while the sharpshooter kept the lead flying. They realized the mages were alternating between charged and instant attacks. The gunman stopped running and decided to fight back. She squeezed the trigger. Two perfect shots deleted 15% of their health, exposing their insane level of defense. The brawlers smiled, realizing they could actually win. She promised to evade while the gunman focused on the kill. It was a simple plan, with zero room for error. Within this mental realm, their physical exhaustion was terrifyingly real. If her stamina failed before the mages fell, they were dead. She moved with surgical precision, calculating every breath. Even reloading felt like an agonizing drain on her soul. She was determined to seize victory no matter the cost. Meanwhile, she noticed the monsters were grouping up. Instead of an all-out charge, they hesitated and began to merge. As he stepped forward, the creatures fused into a single entity. This wasn't a retreat, it was a desperate evolution. She wasn't about to let them escape. Suddenly, a colossal nightmare blocked his path, catching him completely off guard. A massive shadow loomed with glowing violet eyes and a maw of jagged steel. It was a literal manifestation of terror. The pressure it radiated was soul-crushing. This was its true form, a fragment of an ancient malevolent deity. Dark vines lashed out, but she sliced through the corruption with effortless grace. He analyzed his foe. It was surprisingly weak. She tightened his grip and unleashed a blur of steel. He didn't care about its power level. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoed, praising his flawless swordplay. It called him an enlightened being, who had yet to lose his mind to madness. It urged him onward. It wasn't a human voice, it felt like alien frequencies being beamed directly into his consciousness. The voice revealed that S-rank cards were the ultimate weapon of the resistance. These cards held the final sparks of power from civilizations already consumed by the gods. It warned him never to be deceived by the gods, or become a traitor to his own race. She finally understood. These cards were the dying legacy of those who fought until the end. It confirmed his theory that other worlds had already fallen to this cosmic nightmare. He once thought these cards were just toys for the gods, but the truth was far more heroic. These cards represented hope, and he was ready to claim that power for himself. He swore that this planet would be the graveyard for the gods who brought this misery. Suddenly, the divine pressure evaporated. The evil god could no longer sustain its presence in this world. A mere trespasser in Rui's psyche, he watched as both Ruis confronted the mages. Seeing her inner fire, he knew she could finish this. Rui questioned his departure. Her double stood stunned. He'd already annihilated those sludge-like monstrosities single-handedly. "Finish your awakening," he commanded, promising their paths would cross again in the real world. His slip-up about them startled her, but she kept her composure as the mystery deepened. The mage fueled a colossal orb while Rui channeled her focus to rescue her family. Embracing her destiny as a dark apprentice, both Ruis lunged at their foe. He observed her first stride toward defying the dark gods and becoming his true comrade. Returning home, he found his mother frantic with worry, despite trusting his undeniable competence. Reality had shattered. Countless victims were now trapped in inexplicable death-like comas. While some clung to life via tubes, chaos erupted as civilians turned savage in the streets. A haunting nightmare lingered, vivid visions of puppet monsters slaughtering the innocent. Praying for Rui and Qing's survival, her heart leaped as he finally appeared. Monitoring Rui's vitals, she noticed her stabilizing. He sensed her breakthrough was imminent. As the ominous dark haze receded, a confident smirk crossed his face. Success was within reach. A system chime echoed. She opened her eyes, reborn as a dark mage apprentice. She secured an A-rank class wielding dark orbs and an innate dark element affinity. Stunned by her successful transformation, she offered him her deepest gratitude for his guidance. Treating it like a dream, she watched as Qing suddenly bolted upright, screaming. "What happened?" she asked. A terrified Qing pleaded for a way back into the nightmare. "Stay calm," he ordered, explaining that cleared dungeons vanish into thin air forever. No return. Teary-eyed Qing desperately inquired about the fate of those left behind. Can they be saved? This haunting sense of déjà vu mirrored his previous life exactly. In Qing's past second raid, a brave soul had traded her life for his survival. She'd plummeted into a fiery abyss. The gruesome specifics remained a mystery to him. Hesitating, he feared a single wrong word might spiral Qing toward a fatal end. He contemplated pulling Qing into his own dungeon to shield him from such crushing trauma. But that wasn't the answer. Qing collapsed, drowning in a sea of agonizing self-blame. Realizing he couldn't play God, he vowed to conquer this timeline no matter the cost. Toppling the dark gods was the goal, but first he offered Qing a glimmer of hope. "They aren't dead yet," he revealed, causing Qing's eyes to ignite with newfound hope. Displaying reports on the comatose victims he left, Qing puzzled about Xiao's connection. Rui clarified game death wasn't the end. Xiao was merely trapped in a deep sleep. Clarity hit Qing. Xiao was alive. Rui quickly delved into the grim details. Her parents shared that fate. Only by clearing the dungeon could they break the curse. The mastermind must die. He asked Qing to join them and fight together. Qing didn't blink. He was in. Their resolve to protect their loved ones blazed bright. Once returning meant pure despair, but this time they carried a spark of hope. "Power is everything now," he warned Qing, who had lagged dangerously behind the curve. At level 4, with level 5 strength, Qing barely matched the average survivor's stats. Carried by others and one lucky card, Qing sheepishly asked Rui about her progress. Humbly crediting his help, she revealed her level 9 status, leaving Qing absolutely floored. Her gear and class hinted at immense power, but the next revelation was even crazier. Defying all expectations, Qing begged for a carry, to become a true world guardian. His words shook them to the core, as he explained the threat of the gods. Trapped within the digital walls of the Day of Confinement, these entities were forbidden from crossing into the real world. It was an absolute ironclad law. However, the moment a champion is finally crowned, these nightmares will breach reality and feast upon our world until nothing remains. Reality hit hard when they realized their foes were literal cosmic horrors. Even Qing felt the weight of despair, questioning if they stood a chance. She challenged him, ready to quit. Rui's heart ached for her parents, while Qing was haunted by the image of Xiao vanishing into the inferno. Their resolve didn't flicker. Quitting wasn't an option. With their fire rekindled, she revealed the path to victory, a single, desperate gamble. The secret lay in 15 legendary S-rank special cards. Unlocking their full world-shaking potential required hunting down every single one. Only then could they defy the malevolent gods. Rui clarified, the mission was their only goal, to secure these divine artifacts. Qing agreed, the objective was set. But Rui wondered just how many dungeons littered this hellscape, and which ones hid the S-rank treasures. The truth was grim. The gods had fused dungeons into the very fabric of society, spawning thousands of lethal zones across the globe. They were shook. Qing was floored, especially after she'd painstakingly mapped out every strategy guide for the low-level novice zones. Mapping those was light work since only 19 novice variants existed. Documenting such a small batch was child's play compared to this. S-rank drops are insanely rare, but he knew exactly where one was hidden. He pictured the traitorous woman destined to backstab humanity. He ordered Rui to recover her strength at home. Their next raid was in 3 days. Suddenly, a holographic countdown flickered into existence. The timer for the next day of confinement loomed. Having just evolved her class, Rui finally grasped the gravity of their situation. She needed to grind and level up alone. Meanwhile, our protagonist had a date with Destiny and a specific woman to access the dungeon. His S-rank card, Freedom, was a literal cheat code, allowing him to warp through dungeons once he locked onto their coordinates. He tracked down the woman who claimed to be his ex. She was stunned to see him, especially after he'd brutally rejected her before. She assumed they were done. He cut her off, no time for games. He knew she'd already survived 2 nightmare-level dungeons. She confessed, chalking her survival up to pure luck. In his previous life, their fated encounter had played out exactly like this. In that timeline, she'd already sold her soul, becoming a puppet for the gods. Surviving as a slave isn't really living. Thanks to his spiritual immunity, he could see the corrupt divine aura clinging to her, a dark stain invisible to ordinary eyes. That aura was a reward for slaughtering her own kind. She'd helped the gods purge every human soul within that dungeon. They spared her for now, but one more clear would transform her into a permanent soulless thrall of the dark deities. She questioned his motives. Trapped alone with him, she tried to use her charms to lure him into her web of control. She thought she could wrap him around her finger. Her plan, gift the world's top player to her god as a sacrificial snack. Desperation drove her. She was done with this twisted game. If sacrificing his life meant her safety, she wouldn't hesitate. He blindsided her by announcing he was joining her next raid. She froze. She hadn't even mentioned the dungeon to him yet. He offered a deal sealed with a handshake. It was a trap. He needed to tag her with the Freedom Card's mark. She flirtatiously accepted, thinking she had him. He instantly recoiled coldly, stating he'd see her on the battlefield. He ghosted. Fuming with bruised pride, she'd never been shut down so hard. She vowed to make him pay for that disrespect. Day arrived. As the transport sequence began, he grilled Ching on the protocols. Ching nodded. He wasn't about to forget the stakes. He triggered Freedom's secondary ability. The system chimed, locking onto the coordinates for a nightmare realm called Doomsday Paradise. He confirmed the entry. Freedom surged with power as he and Ching dove headfirst into the treacherous C-rank dungeon. As they pixelated into the digital void, his endgame was clear. Hoard every S-rank card by conquering realms he'd never touched. Forget the old grind. His path to godhood was changing. They materialized in the heart of the Doomsday Paradise stage. A lobby. Ching was confused. He realized this safe zone was likely a unique mechanic, tied to the dungeon's twisted rules. He'd only read rumors and leaked guides about this place. He stayed sharp, scanning the environment to dissect the coming threats. To boost his odds, a system notification flared to life. Welcome to the Doomsday Paradise. Let the games begin. Phase 1, Squad Up. The system prompted him to select an avatar and fire off a team invitation before the chaos started. Acceptance meant survival as a trio. Ching scanned the crowd, shocked by the sheer number of players trapped in this lobby. Who is the third? Knowing that woman was a mole for the gods, letting her join randoms would be a death sentence. Instead of letting her butcher innocent players, he decided to keep his enemies closer. She was going on his team. In this hellscape, trust is a luxury he can't afford. Every move had to be a cold, calculated step toward absolute victory. The countdown ticked. The air turned frigid as the portal hummed with power. His true climb to the top starts now. As the light consumed them, he readied his arsenal. The world wasn't ready for the man who crawled back from the apocalypse. He holds the power to crush her if needed. It's the ultimate opportunity to monitor her every move. Xian weighs her options, should she align with him for now, or join a different squad to harvest souls for her deity. That path is equally enticing. Suddenly, an invite from Shi and Ching pops up. Their desperation honestly makes her laugh. Riding the coattails of the world's top player will make this a breeze. Without hesitation, she hits accept. Instantly, she warps to their side. While Ching stares in shock, she fakes a terrified expression and lunges for a hug. He dodges her with cold precision. Denied. He simply commands Ching to unlock the path ahead. With the roster complete, Ching realizes who she is, but he blindly trusts Shi's tactical judgment. He commits to the choice. Xian seethes in silence, certain that a reckoning is coming. He'll be crawling to her eventually. She knows things they don't, thanks to the divine secrets her god whispers. She's already plotting his downfall. As the heavy doors creak open, a mist-shrouded haunting forest greets them. Welcome to Doomsday Paradise Stage 1 Woodland Zombies. Only the elite top 30 squads will survive to advance. High scores are the only ticket out. The rankings flicker live, showing Shi's squad as Team 007. Ching frowns at the vague instructions. They don't even mention scoring. Xian just smirks, calling it child's play. It's a literal dead zone. More kills equal more points. Simple as that. Ching nervously questions the threat level. Shi remains unfazed, telling him to keep moving through this low-tier stage. They push forward until the undead emerge. Ching's heart drops at the sight. These monsters are definitely not illusions. Detecting life, the horde lunges. Ching begins to spiral as they swarm, but Shi coolly draws his blade. In a flash of steel, he carves through the front line. Ching stands there absolutely floored by his speed. Real-world logic doesn't apply here. Witnessing Shi's overwhelming presence, Ching sees him as nothing less than a god among mortals. Xian finally grasps the terrifying gap in their power. It's crystal clear why her deity is so obsessed with him. Shi continues his dance of death. To unlock the S-rank secrets, he must dominate every single round of this game. He isn't alone. Top-tier players are swarming this level. The real challenge is outperforming every last one of them. He needs that top spot. Moments later, the local fodder is erased, netting him 50 easy points. Ching assumes the crown is theirs. Even Xian acts impressed, but she knows the real competition hasn't even started. Trash mobs are easy points for everyone. The board puts 7 in first, but Team 001 is breathing down their necks. Team 9 is right there too. It's a three-way tie at 50 with Team 018 trailing by a single point. The margin is razor thin. Seeing the crowded leaderboard, Ching realizes that any hesitation could cost them everything. One mistake, and their history. They need more targets, but she is already one step ahead, deciphering the dungeon's secrets. To truly break away from the pack, they must execute the zombie king lurking in the forest's heart. That monster is the key to total dominance. Ching admits the blind hunt is both terrifying and exhilarating. The tension is palpable. Without warning, a rotting corpse lunges from the shadows, pinning Ching to the dirt. He hits the deck hard under the creature's weight. Simultaneously, a fresh wave of undead begins to surround them. She checks his vitals. Refusing to be dead weight, Ching slams his forehead into the zombie's decaying face. She warns against reckless moves. Xian plays the damsel in distress, but she just blanks her and blitzes forward. As Ching grapples with the monster, Xian's ego takes another hit. She's fuming that she views her as insignificant. Time for some chaos. She covertly taps into her god's essence to lure in other desperate players. She's summoning those tainted by dark deities. Meanwhile, Ching notices these zombies are packing a surprising punch. Thinking of Xiao fuels his resolve. He seizes the zombie by its throat, squeezing until it evaporates into mist. Victory feels sweet. She gives a rare nod of approval, having already cleared his own path with ease. Ching's pride vanishes. He's still miles behind Shi. Suddenly, mocking applause echoes through the trees. A stranger emerges. The man praises their speed, but Shi isn't fooled. He senses the foul stench of evil gods on all three. They're just like Xian traitors who traded their humanity for divine scraps by slaughtering fellow survivors. Scavengers clinging to life. Xian scoffs at them. Without a direct god link, they're just low-level bottom feeders to her. To her, they're beneath contempt. She realizes they must have bitten the bait she leaked into the dungeon. A bloodbath is imminent. She can sense it. The twisted deity inside her is salivating for the carnage ahead. Ching wonders if they're also players. He even proposes a squad-up, hoping they can carry each other to victory. They mock his innocence. Suddenly, a hidden rule pings. Slaying rivals lets you hijack their entire point stash. The guy who was clapping smirks. To a predator, this is a divine blessing. Harvesting players is the fastest shortcut. He claims a partnership sounds fire. Ching beams and reaches out, but a cold blade instantly greets his throat. Paralyzed Ching knows he's cooked. He braces for the final blow, but a sudden blade parries the strike. The attacker recoils, stunned by her god-tier speed. Sensing their bloodlust, she asks if they've truly thought this through. He ignores the warning, ordering his squad to finish them. She doesn't flinch, effortlessly swatting away their strikes. With surgical precision, the man doubles down. He's blinded by greed, desperate to claim those points at any cost. As a teammate unleashes a hailstorm of bullets, the blue-veined sword skill reaches max charge. G makes his move. He lets fly a single devastating slash. They think they're safe, but his blade carves through them like butter. Terror grips the man as his weapon shatters before his body is sliced in two. The entire trio evaporates. Ching is spinning. He stammers, asking why they'd even try this. She gives it to him straight. The man already said it. Points. A hidden mechanic allows any squad to farm another team's total just by deleting them from the game. He looks at Guion for confirmation. She plays dumb, acting totally clueless, completely convincing if you ignore how sus she is.